are important here is one, the size. And how, on a daily basis, they trample on grass, but they walk and they go by. When they fight, they're more or less in the same position.
Yeah.
And because of the energy and the force required to fight, they trample on that same patch of grass to the point of decimating it and eradicating it completely.
Yeah.
And the grass, which was an innocent participant, by virtue of simply being that that's where it habitates, then suffers simply because these two huge mammals had decided to have a disagreement. When you have a situation, and this is something you can extrapolate to everyday life, government, the world. Syria, there are disagreements going on in Syria. They haven't paused even because of the coronavirus. They're still, their animosities are where they were when we last spoke.
Yeah.
If you look at the disagreements that people have even within, say, governments, and we talk about issues, say, in our country, even with the coronavirus, we talk about corona, but the issues that have bedeviled us from time immemorial still keep creeping in. In fact, they almost take center stage when we discuss corona. You can't discuss it, you can't discuss the treatment, you can't discuss the management without bringing this elephant of corruption, this elephant of mismanagement, this elephant of incompetence. They keep coming in. So when two elephants fight,
It is
the grass.
The grass that suffers.
yes.
In Swahili, they talk about bulls. Fahali wawili wakipigana, nyasi ndio huumia.
Yes, wengine husema wakiminyana.
Wakiminyana.
Today you guys have just come ready, eh?
Yes.
No problem.
It is important.
Let's take a look at the headlines. Sad news on coronavirus. Kenya has recorded the first death. This is a man, 66 years old, who had traveled from South Africa. He becomes the first person to die from the disease, as confirmed cases rose by 3 to 31 yesterday. Now the WHO recommends 6 measures to stem spiral into a grim phase. That is covered in page 2 to 12 and 24 to 26 of the Standard this morning. What do we know about the person who passed on yesterday? He arrived in the country on the 13th of March from South Africa via Swaziland. The patient had been to Aga Khan Hospital's casualty wing at least once before to consult a doctor. The man was admitted to the hospital on Sunday, 22nd, when his health deteriorated. The medics said that the man's travel history was not disclosed to them until Sunday, when now he came and bad health. Authorities say the body must be disposed of within 24 hours to limit contact with other people. He must be buried today. Ministry of Health officials in full protective gear are going to handle the body. Health workers who came into contact with the patient have been isolated.
Yeah. This is I guess, moving to another level.
Yep.
In this. If we look at the numbers around the world now, just as a top-up of what we've been seeing most recently, coronavirus updates, 531 now, 864,000 cases around the world, and contributing to this, 82,000 coming out of the United States, 24,073 deaths. However, 123,942 recovered. So we have active cases, 383, 148 closed cases, which of course closed cases comprise of recovered and deaths. So we've seen a jump of about 100,000 between yesterday and today. 17,000 new cases yesterday alone in the United States, making that now the largest number of cases in the world coming out of one country. In this case, yes, a continent. Localizing things, curfew nightmare in Nairobi is what is the front page of the Daily Nation. Enforcement riddle. Holding lawbreakers in cells, jails, beats the logic of fighting the pandemic. And there's a logistics headache, of course, because prisons and NYS have been roped in to help police deal with the national lockdown. Retailers' dilemma. Supermarkets free to open into the night, but where are the buyers? Commuters' woes. Many Kenyans will be left stranded as matatu operators keep off the roads. So looking into the country dusk to dawn lockdown, which starts tonight as measures to fight COVID-19 have been ramped up. So from today, this evening from 7 o'clock, the curfew begins.
So
it's been seen as crucial days ahead, even in light of the fact that there was one death yesterday, looking at measures to probably be ramped up now. Yep.
This issue of commuters wars, many Kenyans will be left stranded as matatu operators keep off the roads. But even the Kenyans are supposed to be indoors at that time.
This is the thing. So nobody's going to be on the road anyway. So I don't know if it's going to be an issue for commuters per se, because it shouldn't be there anyway. Matatus will stop operating from about 5 o'clock to allow people to get home by 7 or wherever it is that they're going.
So yeah, supermarkets and such have been labelled as essential service.
Yep.
So the workers can be out,
Yeah.
but then there'll be no buyers.
That's the thing, because everybody else ought to be at home. However, you're allowed to leave your home to go shop, isn't it? Yeah, so.
Not really. Not
No?
really, actually. During the curfew, no. Going to shop, no.
So then, of course,
Only essential services people are allowed to be outdoors at
So
that
why
time.
have supermarkets open when people are not going to be able
Basically,
to go shop?
what we are saying is the workers there, if they're closing at 7, then
They will not leave.
They will not leave
They'll probably leave
immediately.
at 9.
they'll go to work earlier than 5.
Right.
So they'll have that leeway to be out later than 7 and earlier than 5.
Yeah.
Right? 6 urgent actions. Let's see what those 6 urgent actions are. That's what the stories are saying, that we have things to do as you know, corona spreads. I don't see where that story is. 6 urgent actions as COVID-19 patient dies. It says that the WHO has recommended 6 urgent actions. I'm looking for the 6 urgent actions. I am not seeing that 6 urgent. Page 2. COVID claims first Kenyan as dusk dawn curfew. Doctor notes. Gang hits terror. Kenyans want to break the curfew at their own peril. Counties to roll out measures. Governors test positive. I don't know where.
These 6 urgent actions.
Yeah, where are they?
Keep looking.
What?
Strange. Okay. They disappeared.
Yeah. I don't see where they are. Anyway, so as this is happening, prisons are preparing for the virus. All prison staff have been ordered to undergo mandatory screening in all prisons entry points as a way of containing coronavirus. This is the time they're being told to do that? What do you mean?
Just now.
Commissioner General of Prisons Wycliffe Ogalo said yesterday that this will be done in all the 129 gazetted correctional institutions. The screening includes temperature checks and staff having to wash their hands. We recognize that it will require the efforts of all government agencies and Kenyans at large in order to bring under control the spread of the disease that continues to ravage several countries. He is directing all officers on duty from yesterday to work in a 4-shift system. Also, while on parade, they have been advised to observe social distancing, stand at least 1 meter apart from each other. Additionally, all the staff who are away on leave when President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the pandemic are ordered to stay at home until further notice. He is adding that those who may have come back from a foreign country must go the mandatory self-quarantine for a minimum of 14 days. Ogalo noted that staff and inmates have been sensitized on various measures to prepare themselves on how to keep the virus at bay. So the prisons department is making these announcements yesterday. On the 13th, when we had the first case, that's when the CS said that they're banning prison visits.
Right.
So that should have come into place immediately, right?
Yes, it should have. I mean, as a direct measure right after that, in terms of what needed to be done. But it seems like now all these things are coming later. We seem to be backtracking on some of these actions. We saw out of Ethiopia yesterday that just over 4,000 prisoners have been released, pardoned per se, because of this, to keep congestion at a minimum in Ethiopia. Now asking questions now, but just looking at this story now locally, it seems that they're setting up other facilities for any new prisoners that will come in. This is in Kenya now, according to what the superintendent has said. So questions about...
They're setting up new facilities.
Yeah. That's what they will do. I need to get that information for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. As you get that, counties are rolling out measures to cushion locals from COVID-19. The Council of Governors had another virtual meeting yesterday, and they were calling on donors to help the 47 counties. Mombasa County, however, has unveiled a 700 million feeding program for vulnerable families. Governor Hassan Ali Joho says the country is running out of time in the war to contain the spread of the virus, noting that the lockdown of the country should have begun yesterday. Basically, Joho is the one man who's been speaking about this and saying, just let's lock down this country. Let's lock down the country. It seems that his calls are not being heeded by the national government. He says 227,404 vulnerable households in Mombasa will require food aid in the event of a total lockdown of the country. He says the county assembly will pass the supplementary budget to support the emergency household relief and nutrition support project as part of the Mombasa economic stimulus program. This program will be spearheaded by the private sector, led by the Mombasa businessman Abdul Sanji, while Joho and Mombasa County Commissioner Gilbert Kitio will be members. So they're setting aside 200 million for the project, while the rest of the funds will come from the private sector players in cash and kind. So they've already mobilized even the private sector who come in. They have a 700 million kitty.
So they say.
The government is set to set aside 200 million. They're waiting for
So
the county
they say.
government to. It's a good thing to start with.
So they say.
Eh.
Why don't they just throw the figure 2 billion? That it would have been
They
more
don't have
catching.
money.
And do they have the 700 million?
They have 200.
You
The
know,
county government is setting aside 200. They want the assembly to approve that. And then the other 500 will come from well-wishers.
the issue of a lockdown isn't that it is not understood. The issue that is not being spoken of but is at the heart and and at the center of people's minds is, what do you do if there is a lockdown?
Yep.
What are we expected to do? Because you are asking us to change what we do drastically. We understand. But what we do is essential and fundamental to our livelihood. What do we do? Now, this one is not being addressed, not adequately.
At least I think the Mombasa County government has done that.
The Mombasa government
They have mapped
county,
out the families that require assistance. They even have the exact number.
so they say.
227,404, right? They
So
have a
they
number
say.
of these families will require assistance. And they've worked out a budget and said, for us to be able to assist these people, we need 700 million shillings. Plans in place.
Plans in place, or
Yeah.
at least thoughts moving towards
Words in place.
words in place. Okay, so here's your story on the police and prisons unveil new measures to curb violence, virus and violence. Two security agencies responsible for arresting and detaining offenders have changed their protocols in order to prevent the spread of the coronavirus within their institutions, with the judiciary having directed that only serious crimes like treason, murder and rape can be tried during the current crisis. The prisons and police services have unveiled stopgap measures to deal with the pandemic. Prison officials have ordered staff now on leave to stay away until further notice. Those who have come back from a foreign country have been ordered to stay away from work until they are recalled. In order to prevent the mixing of new prisoners with those already behind bars, new facilities are being set up. The service is continuously monitoring the entry of new remand prisoners and thus identified specific penal facilities across the country for new admissions. And the prisons, according to Prison Commissioner General Wycliffe Ogalo, additionally, staff and inmates have been sensitized on contingency and preparedness. There shall be non-congregating whatsoever. Right, so Police Inspector General Hilary Mutambai has ordered police station commanders to immediately release petty offenders on cash bail instead of holding them in the cells. And these temporary facilities will be set up in the course of the next 1 week.
So if you're releasing them, why creating
No, for now,
facilities?
the other prisoners for which if there will be new entrants, and those entrants now based on what they're calling serious crimes like murder, rape, and
I see.
Right.
I see. It's 18 minutes after 6 o'clock. This is the situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at weather, and then the conversation continues.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, starting looking off in Nairobi, and where we see partly cloudy conditions after the rains of this morning, highs of 26 and lows of 12 today. Rain likely to continue through most of the day and into the weekend. In Nakuru, also highs of 26, and we see rain showers there as well. Nyeri will round in at 16 degrees, partly cloudy conditions through the day, with highs of 24 and lows of 12. Into Eldoret at 14 degrees is chilly morning, cloudy and overcast for most of the morning, and entering into an afternoon of rain. Thunderstorms expected in Kisumu this afternoon, right now at 19 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions. In Mombasa at 26 degrees, it's partly cloudy, expecting rain in the afternoon. Showers in certain parts of Malindi already this morning. At 25 degrees, highs of 33 and lows of 24. Hop into East Africa, and in Kampala, it's overcast today. Highs of 30 and lows of 20, with a chance of rain in the afternoon. In Dar es Salaam, it's clear skies for parts of this morning, entering into partly cloudy conditions, and then rain in the afternoon with highs of 35. In Johannesburg, it's clear skies at 13 degrees, partly cloudy conditions to follow through later, with highs of 24 and lows of 11. And then into Lagos at 28 degrees. It's partly cloudy through the day. Fog is quite low this morning with highs of 36 and lows of 25. And then into Paris at 3 degrees, where we'll see cloudy conditions for parts of the morning, opening up into clear skies with highs of 11 and lows of 3. And in New York, highs of 10 and lows of 2, partly cloudy conditions through the day. Rounding things out in London at 3 degrees. It's overcast this morning, likely to be so through the day, with highs of 10 and lows of 2.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up. www.spicefm.co.ke and Facebook and YouTube, Spice FM KE. We are taking a look at the newspaper headlines. Remember, you can get to access the Standard newspaper online. Just download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just one subscription fee, and you have access to the Standard publications wherever you are around the world.
Right. The Council of Governors wants Treasury to release the February and March funds to help fight the virus. They have asked the Controller of Budget and the Treasury to release money owed to counties for the months of February and March. The call comes as cases of the coronavirus had been reported in some parts of the country, leading to a lockdown announced by the government to deal with the spread of the pandemic. COG Chair Wycliffe Oparanya said on Wednesday that the county governments, were overwhelmed by demands on their resources while putting in place strategies to curb the spread of COVID-19. Speaking at the Kakamega County headquarters, Mr. Oparanya said some counties had decided to pay allowances to medical staff forced to work long hours while dealing with the emergency related to the disease. So he's called on Treasury to release some much needed funds to allow the fight to continue. He didn't specify the amount of money owed to counties by Treasury. He did say that some counties have decided to pay allowances, and says that county governments face serious challenges in efforts to stop the spread of the coronavirus in rural communities. And then this in turn is what they need the money for.
Tricky, isn't it? Tricky, because one, there was an edict that the president issued last year.
Yeah.
With regards to ensuring that debts were paid, debts that were owed to vendors were paid. What's news on that front? Because remember, these are businessmen who are county bound. They live, work, they belong to those counties.
Yeah.
And this trickle-down effect that we keep talking about would happen if they were paid, because they have workers who are not paid if they're not paid. These workers have families, meaning any activity that is economic-based in this country, counties rather, are very much dependent on the county paying the people whom they've been doing business with. Has this been sorted out? That news has been held in abeyance. One isn't very clear what has happened. Now, essentially what I'm reading is that we are piling one issue on top of the other. The coronavirus has come with its needs and its demands.
Yeah.
And they're real. They're very real. But Equally real were the issues that existed before the coronavirus. And here I'm just focusing on the economic issues. Have these debts been paid?
No.
So, now if these debts have not been paid, essentially you're saying there are people who borrowed money. There are people who owe banks. We've been told banks have been asked to be kind, considerate, philanthropic, neighborly, etc., with 1%. Then we have also been told that the one thing that people seem to be worried about is, okay, we understand lockdown, we understand curfew. How do we survive? Now, you know, the options for livelihood in rural areas tends to be a little more limited than they are in the urban areas. People in the rural areas tend to be farmers. So one could argue they may actually be able to eat to a certain degree. They may be able to feed themselves.
Yeah.
But there are things you need beyond what you have growing in your shamba. How are they going to meet these needs?
That's the question.
See, when you devolved government, you devolved functions of government. And when you devolved it, it means you also devolved livelihoods and the way people could earn an income. Now, here we are putting the cart before the horse. In this sense, is it possible for these people who are owed money to actually get paid? Can the government think of this while also thinking about how? Because remember, when you're saying money to the county, if these individuals in the county get money, there is money in the county. If you give money to the county government to, say, for instance, beef up its health systems, we understand people will benefit. We are caught between a rock and a hard place, admittedly. And the discussion has to be, remember we started asking, when did the rain start beating us? Okay, the question I'm asking is when it will stop. Because right now...
What will make it stop?
Yes, it's a deluge. You have a problem, a new, dangerous, more alarming, more terrifying one has arrived on you. And it requires even more attention than the previous ones. And the previous ones haven't gone away. No.
Yeah, and of course, now the thing is that the money that you were going to pay us anyway for things that were owed, which is what Oparanya is saying here, the money that you were going to pay us previously, now just pay us now so that we can use it to fight this current issue that we have. And then we just go into the snowball just keeps getting larger and larger and larger.
There's a question Eric asked the other day. What solution? You know, if you understand just the basics of economics, there's a word that accountants will throw at you, economists will throw. It's called a moratorium. One of the reasons why people ask for a certain tool, it's called restructuring of loans, to be brought into play, is because it is sometimes understood that if you want this person to actually pay you, you need to consider the reality of their situation. Now, banks do it, but even international lenders do it. We mentioned this in the studio the other day, that if you want money available, find a way of talking to people who owe money to tell them, we can't pay you. And these are the circumstances, and you know them. Give us a break of even up to 6 months, whatever it is that we can bargain. Now, the moment you have that break, it means that money is actually available. It's really not complicated.
Frees up some cash.
Yes, it frees up a lot of cash. We pay, 60 billion shillings every month? It frees that up. You can do a great deal with that amount of money. You're not saying that you're not going to pay. You're just saying, given the circumstances, this we cannot pay. People understand, and international borrowers will understand it better than anybody else. They're always restructuring loans, always restructuring it. I'm certain the government has thought ahead of it, and I'm sure the government is working on this. But as to appearing as though they're completely helpless, I've said this before and I'm repeating it, the government is not helpless. Where there's a deficit is in the implementation stage of all these things. That there's a deficit, just a deficit. But the ability has always been there. We have ability.
They have the means as well.
Yes, and we have the means.
Page 8 and 9 of the Standard, and it's also covered in The Nation, looking at the Uhuru stimulus and whether it actually makes sense. So first of all, it says there's a lifeline for the poor household with the 10 billion cash transfer boom. But why the Uhuru Rescue Plan may not help Wanjiku. Ordinary Kenyans who eke out a living from the informal sector are likely to miss out on President's goodies because it's mainly catered for big corporations and salaried employees. However, there are about 1.56 million licensed micro, small and medium enterprises and 5.85 million unlicensed ones. Around 14.9 million persons are engaged in MSMEs. Most Kenyans are engaged in the informal sector, yet the president gave tax breaks to those in formal employment. Open-air markets, where most Kenyans would buy their food, have been closed. CBK has revised economic growth downwards for Kenya in 2020 to 3.4% from 6.2%, just basically about half, right, of the earlier projection.
Yeah.
But all these measures were geared towards people who have salary. It's given cash into the hands of people who are salaried, assuming a number of things. Assumption number one is that the companies that benefit from those tax relief measures are going to pass on those benefits to their employees. And there's absolutely no mandate for them to do that. So if flower farms, for example, have already sent their staff home and told them you're going on unpaid leave because now we are not exporting any single stem of flower to our markets, if flower farms get the tax relief, is there anything that makes them call up their workers and say, okay, we're going to pay you a salary? They have no mandate at all.
No, not
They
really.
can decide to keep this cash as cash reserves and wait for the good days, so they don't have to borrow. They'll just use the money that they've saved.
But then you have to ask yourself the question also that, so then they're calling them back to work then for what?
Not to call them back to work.
Just to
pay
have them earn something even
Yeah.
while they're closed.
Yeah.
Understood.
Say we have this relief, so instead of giving you a complete 4 weeks of unpaid leave, we're going to pay you at least for a week.
You know, one of the things that many colonial masters were accused of was the manner in which they handled or managed their workforce. They used to have them live in camps. If somebody had, say, a big ranch spanning hundreds of thousands of acres or tens of thousands of acres, and every month without fail, there would be food rations given to families. That once a month, there would be some animal slaughtered and meat divided among the workers. In short, apart from what people were paid, they would also make sure that you are fed.
There are some goodies.
Now, South Africa had an interesting one because one of the ways in the wine-producing areas of South Africa, people will be paid with wine. Now, that not your entire salary, but you would get a very decent amount of wine as part of your payment.
Yeah.
Now, you know how busy that can keep you, isn't it? Now, there are people who argue that that led to actually the killing of initiative in one particular community in that part of the world. Right now, when we talk about cash, we actually talk about food.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to say it now, but I'm going to go into details later. The government has always had the means, and even right now, it has the means to ensure that this cash that we're talking about, if it even is disbursement, that it is done. And it can be done, not overnight, it can be done almost instantly. The government has the ability.
Does it have the money?
It has the money.
All the money.
It has the money.
You start that thing now, CT. In 3 months' time, if this thing is not over, the government has no more money.
No.
And it cannot
A cash disbursement cannot be a salary.
It cannot sell any more houses.
Right, and you need to have more of it to continue the process.
So
the question is, where does it come
not
from?
necessarily.
If you think about
You are assuming that this is going to be paid on a monthly basis instead of considering that it can be a one-time disbursement.
Yeah. To last how long? That's the point.
No, you make it last.
So I give you 10,000 shillings, survive.
You make it last. Remember, if you deal with this problem on a monthly basis, not at your 10 monthly basis, you have your plan.
Yeah.
But say, right now, what do we need to do? What period of time do we need to observe and to ensure this thing happens? It's not 10 years. It is not even a month. It is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maximum a month. You can manage that month. And while you manage that month, it frees your mind to focus on what you are going to do after that month.
Maximum a month of what? Of sorting out like a lockdown or something like that?
What is the lockdown intended for? Let's go back a little bit. It is meant to ensure that you contain the spread.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
As you assess what it is you're doing.
Yes.
Now, if this is what you're doing on a daily basis and people you know are you know where they are.
Yep.
It makes your life easier as opposed to when they're all moving around the place and you do not know.
Yeah.
So it's a stopgap measure. You say, this is what we're going to do. We halt it now. As we halt, we think. Those who manage our finances, what do we have? What can we do? You have the freedom to actually think about these things. So you're not rushing to think, what are people going to eat? You've sorted that thing for that month.
Sorted it out.
Yes. You will be able to think clearer. You'll be able to put things in place that are workable. And you'll be able to have a month is a long time to be able
You
to
make
work
a
on
lot
top.
of sense,
Yes.
CT. But I think that horse bolted 3 weeks ago.
No,
That should have happened 3 weeks ago.
It
Right
didn't-
now,
Eric,
close down right now, you're not looking at 3 weeks anymore.
Eric, it didn't happen. There's something that we must discuss regarding the coronavirus. We must be rational about it. A lot of the decisions that are made seem to be hysteria based. It's happening around the world. People are panicking, so let's make this decision. Here is where we are. If here's where we are, what do we need to do? What can we afford to do? These are the realities. You take that step and you do. So long as you stop people from moving, my friend, that is one huge step.
At the end of the day, that's the thing. That's the crux of it, right? We're trying to get people to stop moving because
They
the
have
virus.
been moving for so long.
Yeah, but now the
The
thing
numbers
is,
that we have now, even once you contain the people right now, you see, Italy, they've been contained for how long now? And the numbers
and
are
the
rising
numbers
on
are
a
spiking
daily
because
basis.
now they're able to see that, okay,
Yep.
if you want to look at it, people now got
Because the virus is
everybody to
already
stay
in the
one
houses.
place, so it has already moved. So now that's when you see the confirmed cases.
Yep.
But if you want to look at Kenya, it's been said that we're still early in the game. Okay, still have an opportunity to stop people from moving.
Why don't we
And
look
with
at
all of this
Italy?
taken into consideration, what needs to happen is that if at the end of the day what you're trying is you want to stop people from moving, there's certain things that you have to do to make them comfortable in this state of non-movement, right?
That is very true. You see, even if you look at Italy, the horse bolted, yes, but what are these alternative measures they could have taken? Let's say they had not locked it down as what then would we be looking at in Italy?
The thing is,
So even if it has bolted, it is okay. That's where we are. But what we then need to do is, with it having bolted, let's still lock it.
Let's still
Because
lock it.
What is the alternative?
yeah, because
Locking is locking, yes.
Still,
No, actually, I was saying the horse has bolted in terms of managing it in terms of hard cash, of cash handouts, hand cash outs.
It isn't. The horse hasn't fully bolted yet. The stable doors are open. The horse hasn't bolted. It's not that people are not willing to stay at home. People would willingly stay at home, but how are they going to eat? Now, this is the problem I'm saying the government can solve.
And that's why I'm saying solving that problem, we are running out of time. Let's
If
take a
you
look at traffic and then we continue this conversation. 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is a Situation Room.
Pure golden sound and good talk. 94.4 Spice FM.
Let's start things off in Mombasa, where there is a ferry disaster. Unfortunately, several people injured in a stampede at the ferry. Users pelting police officers with stones. Obviously, no clear guidelines in terms of how the management of commuters is going to take place. Police and Coast Guard are at the scene now trying to sort that out. This early morning, people are trying to get where they're going. So if you're Mombasa trying to get to the ferry, you need to approach with caution, and it's going to be held off for a while until this particular issue is sorted out. Major issue on Thika Road as of yesterday, where the stream right around Kahawa, or river in this case, burst its banks because of the heavy rains, and so outbound on Thika Road, traffic for very many hours and still continues this morning. It is quite the situation because this has now affected traffic inbound on Thika Road because of the rains. Everybody, including the National Highways Authority, asking everybody who is going in that direction to approach with caution, and if you can avoid the area, please do for now until that is sorted out. No other incidents right now that we can see. If you are going out, the roads are wet, so please be super careful. Let us know if there's anything else that we can report about. Spice FM KE on Twitter, or 0719 012 600. We'll keep you informed of how things look in a bit.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Doing this is a situation with Kenya's biggest conversation. We are taking a look at the headlines. Remember, you can download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store and get to access the Standard wherever you are during this time of containment measures for coronavirus. So the president and his deputy were sufficiently philanthropic and they offered to take a pay cut of 80%. The cabinet offered to take a pay cut of 30% and PS says 20%. And they urged the other arms of government, other state officers, to also feel sufficiently philanthropic during these hard times and take a pay cut. Now, the speakers of Parliament, National Assembly and the Senate met yesterday. They looked at one another. They asked each other, now, what do we do? And they decided to put themselves in the level of cabinet secretaries and took a 30% pay cut. They said that they'd like to offer 30% of their salary back to the people.
They followed suit.
The governors...
Would they have done this without us?
The governors
The
also
first
met.
move.
And they had a long conversation about this. Somebody had proposed 50%. And they're like, wait, what do you mean 50%? Do you know we have loans? Do you know we have mortgages? We have needs, man. They rejected the proposal for 50% pay cut for 3 months, citing huge loans and mortgages that they're servicing. It also emerged that some of the governors have not received their salaries for the last 2 months, even as they resolved to take a 30% pay cut. So governors have also decided we are going to take a 30% pay cut, according to Council of Governors Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya. They were asked, so why not 50%? They said, I think 50% will be too much for us. Some of us have mortgages and loans that we are servicing.
Who said that?
Oparanya, the chairman of the COG.
Okay.
That is what the governors were saying, basically, in their meeting.
We are also Kenyans.
Yeah.
At this point. Understand that we also suffer. We bear the brunt. We feel the bite. We feel the pinch. We wear the shoe. So leave us alone, basically.
50% will be too much for us because we've got mortgages.
Did they say how much would be sufficient?
Kenya Airways have taken a 70% pay cut. All of them.
And unpaid leave, mandatory, compulsory unpaid leave for 2 weeks or 1 week, or in some cases 21 days until we figure out what's going on. Without question.
What the management has done is it has looked at, okay, so how many of your loans have we as a corporation guaranteed? Let's talk to those financial institutions and let's ask for a moratorium, and the banks have agreed. So it has worked for them. So this COG guy is saying it's too much because we have loans. Connie, who doesn't have a loan in this country?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't have responsibilities? If we want to do an audit and look at the people, you get paid, and by the time your salary comes in, it's done.
That's an unfortunate statement.
It's true, though. People,
coming from a very senior
it's very,
government.
very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
People are working, and
We
by
have
the time they
needs.
get the money that
It's not
comes
just
in,
unfortunate.
it is gone.
It's insensitive.
How many people are in that same situation?
How many
Or
have
worse?
been paid have been sent on unpaid leave?
What
How
about
many-
people who didn't even have jobs to begin with
To
and
begin with,
relied on part-time jobs?
Yep.
What about them? They are less Kenyans than these leaders
This
who are
money-
elected.
This money that these guys are getting paid with is the money that we are paying as taxes. And it's a money
Yes.
that we are saying, can we get some money that can go towards vulnerable people?
People who definitely have infinitely less than all these people who are talking.
People who, if they don't have something cash in hand tonight, they're going to go hungry. If you ask Oparanya, I'm not going to give you a salary for 2 months,
He'll be fine.
he'll be fine.
He will be.
This thing, there's some things that are just better left unsaid because it's dirtying my mind and I don't like it.
But remember, we've been talking about how this coronavirus is bringing forth the underbelly. These things we speak of on a daily basis. All you need to do is have eyes now to see it coming out. That tells you of the mindset that this. But it's an unfortunate statement. I hope he was actually misquoted.
Honestly, in this case, I hope he was misquoted and
But-
it was taken out of context.
But look at that sentiment. Let me take it even further. Somebody asked, but there are perks that these people are given.
the allowances. So by the time that they're
Yes.
talking about the base salary, but all the
Yes.
allowances that come out actually
No.
are
Some of these
equal
governors
to-
are housed in government houses.
So they don't pay rent.
Right? So there's no rent. They're using our fuel guzzlers that we are fueling. So they're not paying fuel. They're not
No, they're
paying
not.
insurance. They're
They're
not
not.
servicing these cars.
They are not. They don't.
Right.
They don't.
When they tell us this, it becomes a joke. And I think the signal was started by the president himself. When the president says, I'm going to take an 80% pay cut, why do you need that 20%?
Yes,
we run
why?
your life, Mr. President. You live in our house. You use our cars. In fact, now you're not moving. Stay there. Stay in state house. Don't move. We'll pay the electricity bill. We'll pay
We've
pay
been paying it
water.
anyway.
We'll pay DSTV for you. We'll pay the cops who guard you. We'll pay your food, everything. Why do you need that 20%? 200,000 shillings. The president is about what? 1.5 million? What?
Around that amount,
Yeah.
yes.
So why are we paying him? That money he needs to relinquish.
This is the time when he should be using his savings.
Yeah. DP Ruto, you have a palatial home in Karen. You're living there. We're paying for
It's
it.
our house.
It's our house.
You
don't
are living in our house.
Yes.
Don't move.
So-
Stay there. Don't move.
You're living in
you
our
don't need to spend any money for anything. You've got a loan. We are telling the banks to stop.
What?
charging
They're the
you.
ones who should be
See,
telling.
these are those
Tell the banks to
headache-inducing
stop that.
conversations when we think about them and realize that the people who lead Kenyans actually don't actually think about the Kenyans at all.
Oh, but they don't.
They don't.
We've said this for the longest time.
Well, like it's
Thank you. Our
I-
sisters joined us. Wallahi.
I don't.
Aha. Just open your eyes and see. Now, we have a situation where they're supposed to rise up to the occasion. Is that not so?
Yeah.
Stand up and be counted. They've stood up and we're counting. And look at how the maths is adding up.
Members of Parliament, members of the Senate have been on unpaid leave. Have been on leave. Okay. So let it be unpaid.
They've been on leave, but they're being paid though.
Yeah.
So now in
Let
this
it
case,
be unpaid. Why
Yeah.
do we need to pay them that salary that we're paying members of parliament? All parliamentary staff, not just MPs, all of them, clerks, everybody who works in parliament, you're not going to work.
You know, if that pay cut
Come to parliament next week for 1 week, let's pay you for that 1 week.
Yes.
Go back home. There's no transport allowance. Stay wherever you are.
In fact, mingle with your people now.
now go and do the thing
Get
that
to
you're
know your
actually
people.
supposed
No,
to do.
stay at home.
Actually, stay at
Mingle
home.
with nobody.
When I say mingle with your people, when you're at home, people will visit you.
No, nobody is supposed to even come
Eric,
visit you.
I am telling
Stay
you,
at home.
I am telling you, you will be visited.
There's an order. When they come, put a sign there. Stay at home.
Eric.
So that you don't, you
In the
open
ru- in
that
the ru-
window. You
it's-
open
it's
that
not
window.
open- it's not- it's not opening
this
the
MP
window.
will start saying, "But you see, I was receiving
Eric, it's not
delegations.
opening-
I needed
it's
to
not
make,
opening
I
the
needed
window.
to make for them some tea."
I am
no.
Eric, I'm stating it so that it can be understood. This is what's going to happen, so that it can be mitigated against. People will come and visit you. Now, this is the opportunity for you to tell them, excuse me,
Kaeni nyumbani.
this one is serious. You cannot come and visit. All right? And if I talk to you from behind my fence or gate, it will look rude. But this is the situation. It is an opportunity for many things to be understood. And why I'm saying the going home is important, it will not be some foreigner, some NGO telling them this thing, some other body. It will be you, the elected leader, who is at home telling them this. Is there a better time than this for people to actually see their leaders among them? Not necessarily visiting them, but at home, knowing, wajua nani ako nyumbani. Is there a better time? The answer is no.
Nah,
There is
it's
no
broken.
better time.
There's no better time than the present. There really is.
So when you're talking about that message will drive. But if you're talking about it and you're sitting somewhere, living somewhere in Nairobi, and your constituency is we know where,
We're not even listening to you.
that message is not going to go down very well.
Nope. Forget it. Talk to somebody else. The birds.
There is no way. People who live privileged lives, and all these people we are speaking of live privileged lives, the one thing they're not going to give up easily is that privilege. This servant of the people thing,
Yep.
it's conversation.
It's true.
It's hyperbole. It is something that is written hyperbole.
I got it.
Yes. No, it's for...
Okay.
Yes, okay. The point is, the underbelly is wide open for anybody to see.
You know what? Everything that they say every cloud has a silver lining. Now, this silver lining at this point then is what would then serve people as fodder for the decisions that they will then make in the future. How did your present leaders behave at a time where the country was truly in a crisis? Should that be enough fuel then for you in the decision that you're then going to make in the future, for whom you're going to put in positions of leadership? This is the test right now for you to see how they would essentially treat people, or where they are looking at priorities in terms of who needs to be helped and where. My friend, by their deeds you shall know them, and this is what they're presenting right now.
This is direct.
If we move away from political leaders and go to our church leaders, the Nairobian has had a delightful spread on page 4 and 5 dealing with this video. Where are the men of God in this hour of Corona is the title of that particular message. And why I'm picking on this is, if there's been a growth industry in this country, it has been the pulpit. where any other person. You see, this one, you don't even need papers to prove that you're a prophet. You just need to call yourself one. And if you are in the rural areas, you only need to talk about something that you know has happened in the world, and you can call it a prophecy, because the likelihood of people knowing that has happened will be fairly low. But all these people, I am sure that among their congregation, they're sending messages, they are trying to encourage people. I am sure they're doing what they do. But they're not as loud as they usually are.
No. Come, CT, there was a day here you said, these people who say, come and pay 5,000 shillings for your miracle. Ashe, if the preacher and the pastor and the prophet were able to do these things, why are we not seeing Corona having disappeared?
Well, somebody put it very well as a Bishop Muredi who said, I want to see that preacher who says he can heal. I want to get him or her on a plane, get a ticket to go to Italy and heal the dying Italians.
Voila.
You know, the message that we hear from our pulpits is not actually constructed to help people. It's constructed to help you magic think. It's constructed, you only need to believe.
That's it.
You only need to give. You only need to give more.
Sow a seed and
You will,
tend
it's a constant
sow a
message.
seed, tend the bud, tend the
How
plant,
often
tend the
do
tree.
you hear of preachers who come up and say, folks, even as I'm talking, this is the guidance that we get from our holy book called the Bible, and I want to focus on how you need to study it so that you can understand what it actually says. Continuously. It is continuously one phrase, one, not passage, even phrase, and then you extrapolate on it, and then you move from being C.T. Muga, you become the man of God. So the man of God prefaces everything that you say thereafter. Essentially, you become God.
Yes.
Now, God's, here we are. We have
Do something.
We have coronavirus.
Do something.
Let your godliness come forth. Okay? Let us see what it is that you're going to do for your people. Let us see how it is you're going to be a blessing. Because right now, people need encouragement. Right now, people need to feel that they are cared for. Right now.
Let me tell you about a man of God. Edward Buria is the chairman of a company called Silver Spread in Meru. This Meru-based hardware has donated water tanks to help in the control of coronavirus. Yesterday, the company donated 30 water tanks to the Meru Municipal Board. The tanks, according to Mr. Buria, will be used to provide water for town residents who want to wash their hands. Buria is thanking Silver Spread for the donation, which he says will be crucial in the fight against coronavirus, and is urging other businesses to partner with the board during this difficult time. Oh, that's Edward Buria is the board's chairman. The company is Silver Spread. Those are the men and women of God.
Now, that is a man of God. Or those are people of God.
Those are people of God.
How many churches do you know of who can tell you about the program they have for reaching out to the underprivileged in not only within their congregations, but even within the areas that they're based? If you're based, say, on Langata Road, what program do you have to reach out to Kibera?
Yep.
If you're based on Enterprise Road, if you're based on Mombasa Road, what are these programs that you have for your people who are underprivileged and for those who are among you? Should this not be taking center stage?
It should be taking center stage. That's the thing. And, you know, at the end of the day, countries, leaders, everything, at the end of it, look, call it what you want to call it, but it's for the people. Should be.
All these congregations have medically trained people. All. Not some. All. What are the outreaches? What are the plans? In short, what exactly are they doing? Because these are their congregants. These are the people who pay tithes, which pay their salaries, which ensure they live. Now, it is now time for them to step up
and do something
and
about
to actually
it.
serve these very people who ensure that they have a job. What are they doing?
They also need to join. I mean, look, everybody needs to join in at this point, and they need to take the role.
No,
they need to take
they're
the
the
front.
leaders.
They are the leaders. They need to take the front, position in all of this and say, this is actually what we're going to do.
And bring
Lead
in
by
their
example,
congregants
bring
to
their
now
congregants.
focus on these things. But
Exactly.
they have to take that leadership.
And I said, look, it's not just political leadership that we're talking about with this thing. Religious leaders also will be brought to book, and the people will realize and have an epiphany and say, you know what? Actually, they've not been fighting for us. They really haven't been leading us. We are not the center. They are actually the center. And I'm telling you, so many things are going to be unfold after this, and people realize actually where we really, really are.
State agency has ordered pay TV firms to air school lessons. Now, you know that the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development has come up with a program on how students who are now at home can access lessons on radio. These are being aired on KBC. Now, the Communications Authority, in a letter to the providers, wants the changes to take effect immediately. What changes are these? Broadcast signal providers who transmit radio channels have also been advised to carry the KBC education channel on their platforms, and is also saying pay TV providers should air the state-run education channels to support children's learning at home. So basically, what the Communication Authority is saying is that all these pay TV providers, all of them, should ensure that they are running these programs. Have a channel, let children access it. Radio, TV, let children be able to access these learning programs.
Another fantastic thing for the future, though, isn't it? Something
I've
that
actually
should be
gotten a
the
message
case.
from someone who has contacts within the county system. And this is, from what I see, a communique that was issued by the Council of Governors.
Right.
Governors announced voluntary salary cuts for employees. This is CC to all county employees, all. Governors and their deputies will, for the coming 3 months, offer 30% voluntary pay cut on their salaries in a step taken to mirror the effort of the president in line with the presidential initiative to offer a voluntary reduction of salaries of senior rank of the national executive. County executive committee members, CECMs, and their chief officers will offer 20% and 15% cut respectively. Job Group R deal with 10% pay cut. The announcement was made on Thursday evening by Kakamega Governor and Council of Governors Chairman, His Excellency Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya.
EGH.
Okay.
Get it right.
He says that all governors, we have also resolved that other cadres are welcome to voluntarily contribute whatever percentage they deem fit. Okay.
This volunteerism. Okay, anyway, go on.
No. Please say what you want to say. I think
okay.
it's important.
It's okay, it's a good thing, but I think we should have just, had it pegged properly.
Well, he also...
Say, this is where we are as a country. As your employer, the Public Service Commission, as your employer, the Parliamentary or the Judicial Service Commission, this is where we are. As the government that is giving money to these employers, just say, we don't have money. We need to cut back costs. You're sending people on leave. Work out measures.
Okay.
We need to save money.
Having
this
said
voluntary 5%, 10% voluntary.
All right.
30%.
Why don't you let me pour a little cold water, help you pour a little more cold water on this particular matter. He further goes to say that these PPE kits, despite persistent follow-up, they have not actually been delivered. And the ones which they have received are of low quality and they're not able to protect health workers. One, he says also that slum dwellers and vulnerable groups and urban poor should be supplied with free water.
What?
This is the governor saying that.
I'm telling you what he said.
Okay. Should be, not will be.
Okay. Sorry.
Should be.
I am unable.
You know, I'm pausing. They didn't have water to begin
In
with.
the first place.
So
what are we saying? It's not like they were
if
paying
the
with-
water was actually there, then you could talk about it being free. We're not now charging you for it. It wasn't there. So, okay.
Let's talk about something else for a minute so that we can diffuse, right? I think it's necessary at this point. Still, with what we're being asked, with social distancing and keeping away, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, who is the Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of Health, she says as we speak about their consultations going on with what is going on in Kilifi at the moment, with the lockdown in the city or not lockdown or transport or no transport, whatever the case may be, there are consultations going on and the teams are working and are going to handle Kilifi and other areas that are emerging as hotspots. And this is the thing, that they're going to be over the next few days, most probably areas then which would be deemed as hot spots. So the thing is that before then panic sets in, before or raises to another level, before now these areas are called the hotspots, again the message is very clear for people to try and be as contained as possible, because once an area is called a hotspot, you can imagine the kind of panic then that is going to ensue with what we've seen in Kilifi, for example. She's urging people at the coast and Kilifi in particular to observe social distancing, and now she's added another ingredient, which is self-determination. In this case, self-determination is to live, to stay alive. and see that you don't, number one, don't contract the disease, and then yes, actually don't then die from it if you get it.
By the way, they're not contracting the disease in terms of priorities or people who are focusing on livelihood. Believe me,
it doesn't show up.
It doesn't rank very highly. Because, you see, what are you comparing it? You're talking to this person about staying alive, or you're talking to them about maintaining discipline when they are focusing on actually staying alive. Now, the need to stay alive is a much, much stronger drive than any of these things that we're talking about here. Just the self-preservation, basic, stay alive. That's why people do the craziest of things just to ensure that they stay alive. Do you really think that the people who are pelting policemen stones in Likoni Ferry, you think they woke up in the morning with a plan that when we go to the ferry, we're going to be stoning the police?
No. Of course, they got there and they realized, look, we can't handle this kind of thing. And the frustration then rises to levels that is not containable anymore.
Whenever you
cannot
find
be contained,
violence
and they
erupting like that, you have to ask, what is the underlying issue here?
Frustration. Major.
And a lot of it.
And from a lot of people at the same time.
Coupled by bad planning by the government.
And poor management. How many more things can we say?
City Muga, as we come to the top of the hour, today's proverb.
When two elephants tussle, fight, wakiminyana, it is the grass that suffers.
When two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. Yes. Keep it right here. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. From the next hour, we'll be joined by Dr. Mercy Korir, our guest host for this season. We'll also be speaking to several Kenyans who have gone through this ordeal of getting tested, getting quarantined, and one of them has tested positive, one tested negative. We'll be speaking to them and seeking to understand their experience. Good morning, 7 o'clock.
Spice up your
guys,
life.
maybe we spoke too soon yesterday, expecting that the roads would have been empty today and that there would be no problems. But it seems that everywhere you look today, there seems to be a problem. Whether we're looking at the ferry in Mombasa, where that situation is still trying to be contained, the frustration of several commuters this morning then opening up into pelting of stones, and there has been an accident there where several people have been injured. So people are being asked, please approach with caution. If you can avoid the ferry completely at this time, that is the advice we're being given. Still trying to sort out the issue on Thika Road by the National Highways Authority and trying to get vehicles moving at a manageable pace, understanding that two things have happened. The river has burst its banks onto the main road, and at the same time a huge signpost has fallen and has essentially blocked the road. So right now, until that is moved, nobody's going anywhere. The people who have been there are stuck right now. So please, if you don't have to be on Thika Road, do not. Kiambu Road heading out towards town is absolutely free. Wayaki Way, we have no problems there. We do have issues on Mombasa Road right around Cabanas today. Trailer's been moved, or rather had broken down, knocked another one, has been moved. My goodness, now everywhere we look, there seems to be problems. Jogger Road is all right. The train, though, towards Imaradaima has stalled, so that's not going to be an option for people to use this morning. It's Friday morning and things are heating up real fast.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We're now joined by Dr. Mercy Korir, KTN's medical journalist. She is our guest host for the season. Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning.
Mercy. Karibu.
Good morning. Asante sana.
Good to see you. You know, it's Friday and you dressed like the president has been asking us to do that.
I'm trying to identify with my African roots, like city.
Yeah, sitting across city has that effect on people.
I've always been African. You've just not noticed it.
Yeah,
Yes.
on a daily.
No. It
right.
depends.
Okay.
Often. Even yesterday.
But
she
often.
was. Did you
Yeah,
say?
even yesterday I was.
Okay.
We try to be as African as possible.
Mm.
You know, like I visited some countries in West Africa, and dressing in African
Cultural
attire
attire
is
a
normal.
thing.
It's part like you go to the office, you would think it's a weekend if you're in Kenya. So probably we should start adopting that. Yeah.
I agree.
City, you should start adopting that.
Cities
She started
awfully
a minute
quiet.
ago.
You're awfully quiet.
No, I'm awfully listening.
I was looking at what the president has been wearing lately. I think you shared numbers. You gave him your designer's contact.
We're neighbors.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
We
I see.
apologize.
I see.
We'll see.
With the president, take at 80% pay cut. That will prove
Now
how.
that you prove how
Yes.
buddy you
But
really
I
are.
am willing to take 100%.
But it should be
pay cut,
100%, as you said. What do they?
100%.
What does he need the 20%
But I need the
for?
other privileges that he has.
Yeah,
You.
everything else.
So
We pay for your house.
Yes.
he doesn't need to go anywhere. Pay for his house, fuel, entertainment, food, everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Mercy, we have seen the sad news of the first corona death,
Yes.
corona-related death in the country. It came out of Aga Khan yesterday.
Yeah, and I think the sadder news for Kenyans is that it may not be the first and the last, because as we have
It
seen,
may not be the first.
No.
it will be the first, but it may not be the last.
Okay.
Sorry.
Actually, I would even go with the first statement that you've made.
Mm.
If we are going to claim that we know exactly, that we have a finger on the pulse of what is actually happening throughout the country, then you would say this is the first. We don't. We say we
Actually,
do,
yeah.
but we actually don't, because people are dying. But do we have the facilities? We do. The capacity? We do. But are we testing all these people who are dying to determine what it is that's killing them? Just start there.
You know, let me disappoint you a bit. Yesterday I had a conversation with one of my colleagues, a doctor, and he was telling me, actually, as a country, we do not have capacity, critical care capacity. The expertise that can take care of such a patient in respiratory distress is available in very few centers, Aga Khan being one of them, and this is where this patient was, and we still lost him. The rest of the country, unfortunately, does not have that capacity. So when you're talking about human resource, we don't.
Even KNH.
What-
No.
No.
The reference that I was not alluding to but stating wasn't that. I was just specific on testing.
Okay.
Specific.
People are dying. We don't know what it is.
We don't really know
We
what's
don't-
killing them. Remember, I will always analyze and
But
check.
respiratory distress would be an indicator.
It would be.
No. By the time actually they are getting to respiratory distress, it is really bad. Remember we said
It's not
mild
the first
symptoms
stages,
will
the
be like
final.
a
It's the
cough,
Final
fever.
stages. So if somebody is dying out of respiratory distress, now that points you towards thinking,
They've been unwell for some
did
time.
they have corona? If somebody does not have respiratory distress and then they pass away,
Remember, for the longest time,
Uh.
to understand this, let me juxtapose with HIV. People will say, Ukimwi imemua. Ukimwi never killed them. It never did. There was some opportunistic disease.
Yeah.
And given
True.
the state of health you are in, a cough could kill you. A cold could kill you. Anything that can be labeled as a disease could kill you. So, we are talking about the coronavirus and what we know of it. By the time people are figuring out you have it, it's been with you for some time. It's not as though on the day it's tested and found, it's the day it
Exactly.
landed on you.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
And even looking at the patient that we've lost, by the time we were losing him, he was really, really in a bad situation. As in, there was the chances of coming back were really, really slim because of you saw the cabinet secretary said he had a pre-existing condition, diabetes, and we've seen from China, from Italy, the people whose system is even mildly immunocompromised, they are unlikely to fight the virus. So going by this trend, I think the next week will be a difficult week for Kenyans. Yes. In terms of the numbers, hopefully we will have started testing all contacts that have been traced, and hopefully we'll be able to manage and limit transmission, because here what we are seeing is that there's already community transmission, so we don't know the number of our elderly
and how severe it becomes.
Yes.
Because that's the other issue. So far, what we know is that we had been told by the ministry there were 2 patients in severe condition. I'm assuming that this is one of them. And the other one is was it a Frenchman?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The
There are
elderly
actually
French.
3.
Now there are 3.
Okay, I should not be holding brief for the
Right.
Ministry of Health.
That's
I
what
don't want to
the
find
ministry has
myself
been
in
saying.
Bagathi reporting, but yes. So he was one of the patients that were in critical condition, and as we said, for him, the odds were against him. Being over 60, having a pre-existing condition, really, the odds were against him with this disease, because what it does, it literally eats up the lungs. Once it gets to a pneumonia, it literally destroys the lungs. So the situation becomes really bad.
So if your lungs already were in a compromised situation,
Yes.
yes,
Like smokers, for example.
like smokers, for example, and former smokers, for
Yes.
example, yes.
So it's a difficult situation. So I think this should be a wake-up call for all of us as Kenyans, and anyone who, especially anyone and everyone who is in that critical or in that vulnerable group, to know that this thing, we do not know the extent of it. We do not know who has it in the community. Somebody who's healthy may not be as symptomatic as somebody who has a compromised immunity for one reason or the other. So if you interact with them and you pick it, then you are the one who will suffer if you're in any of this category of persons.
Which goes to a question, I mean, now that several things, and if we can just lay it quickly before going to the question, we're now looking at 900 and something people that they're looking to then trace and essentially either isolate, quarantine, or test, right? Who came in contact with these individuals? That's one thing. Secondly, we have a still rising number of cases of people who present themselves to a medical facility, hospital, isolation center, whatever the case may be, and unfortunately not giving the history of their operations, whom they may have come in contact with, or where they may have gone. We have a number of cases from what we've heard that, this gentleman, for example, presented himself at Aga Khan, didn't give his history, and then came to hospital later. So people, and you can't blame the health workers at that point, because he didn't give the information. And this could be anybody across the board.
Yeah.
If not presenting your medical or whatever history, then does not give them a platform upon which they can now act.
Exactly.
So then what advice then are we giving to people now that's critical at this point? And then how are we sure of the tracing, the contact tracing, and how that is going at this point? Because 900 and something people, 4 days ago it was 600 and something. Raised the number by 300. It's a bit worrying now.
And the number will go up. That number of contacts traced will go up, because remember, every day there are people who are presenting as suspected. So as long as they're suspected and they meet the criteria, having traveled or come in contact with somebody who's been confirmed, or come in contact with somebody who's traveled, then it means they also have their own contacts to be traced. So the number of those who are being traced will increase, definitely. The number of people to be confirmed will increase, definitely. The number of people who we will lose, as long as in the vulnerable group, might increase also. Now, the thing to tell Kenyans, and I think we've said it before on this show, and probably it's time to just reiterate, is that when you go to any health facility, it is good to give the honest history. It is good to give clear history. Say you have traveled, or you've come in contact with somebody who's traveled within the last 14 days. This one helps you as an individual, because now the healthcare workers will know how to respond. 2, it helps you protect these healthcare workers. Remember, these are people from families and people going to families. They are as much at as much risk as you and I. Because at the end of the day, yes, they wear the garb of being healthcare workers, but they are human first.
Yeah.
And what we've seen from coronavirus, it does not discriminate.
It doesn't.
Whether you are the vice chancellor, whether you're the king in waiting. It does not discriminate. It affects everyone. So these healthcare workers are as equally susceptible as you and I. So it is important, one, for Kenyans, if you have any of the symptoms and you are showing up to a facility, to indicate that you suspect coronavirus because of A, B, C, and D, and we've listed those ones. The other bit is it would be important to utilize the Ministry of Health numbers that they've given to call ahead of time to say, I think A, B, C, and D, so that they can guide you and tell you either go to the nearest facility or we are coming to you, because all we want to do is minimize transmission and contain it as much as possible. So my advice would be to utilize all these avenues that are there, one, and when you go to a health facility, just declare your suspicions, first of all, for your own sake and for the sake of the healthcare
and
workers.
if you call and it doesn't go through, you are not the only Kenyan who's calling on that line. You are among many others. Just like you can call a friend and find the number engaged, call again and keep calling again.
Yeah.
Because many Kenyans are calling with probably the same questions as you have, maybe different, and they all need the same help.
True.
Yes, so just keep calling until you get through.
And then from what we're seeing, if the weather is anything to go by, we are likely to see lots of flus now, other common colds coming up. So those lines are likely to be jammed. Health facilities are likely to be jammed. So if the symptoms are mild, there's no need to rush to a health facility. Because remember, as we've kept saying on this show, is that the hospitals are still attending to other people. Diabetics, hypertensives, mothers are going to deliver, children are having other forms of pneumonia. The hospitals are still working. They did not stop when coronavirus started. So if you're experiencing mild symptoms and you do not meet any of the case criteria, don't panic. Don't start running to hospital because you will jam the system.
I have a related question to that. Let's take a look at weather and then we come back and I'll ask you that question. 16 minutes after 7, this is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Spice FM, Nakuru. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, Nairobi at 16 degrees. We are looking at partly cloudy conditions for most of the morning. However, the showers will continue at some point. Highs of 22 and lows of 16. In Nakuru at 16 degrees, a lot of clouds this morning as well. Chance of thunderstorms later, highs of 22 and lows of 15. In Nyeri, it's already raining this morning at 16 degrees. It's going to open up into thunderstorms in the afternoon, then with highs of 22. In Eldoret, it's mostly cloudy at 15 degrees. Thunderstorms expected later, then with highs of 20. It's raining in Kisumu at 21 degrees. Thunderstorms expected later, then with highs of 26. In Malindi at 27 degrees. Now it's mostly cloudy. It's going to start the rain again later on in the afternoon. Rain showers already in Mombasa at 26 degrees, opening up into thunderstorms later, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Rains already in Kampala at 21 degrees, at 23 degrees the high today. In Dar es Salaam, quite foggy this morning, showers coming through the day later, highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's foggy in Johannesburg and that will open up into rains later with highs of 21 and lows of 11. Lagos is partly cloudy this morning, shall carry through the day then with highs of 33 and lows of 26. In Paris, it's clear skies at 4 degrees, partly cloudy conditions will follow with highs of 14 and lows of 4. In London at 3 degrees, it's clear skies as well, partly cloudy conditions with highs of 14 and lows of 3. And finally in New York at 9 degrees, it's partly cloudy with highs of 19 and lows of 7.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Coronavirus, COVID-19 in the country and how you're dealing with it. Any concerns that you may have, you may call us in 0719-012-600. In the show this morning, Eric Latif, Nduoko, C.T. Muga, and Dr. Mercy Career, KTN's medical journalist. Dr. Eric, so you were talking about not panicking when you have exhibited some symptoms of a flu, right?
Yes.
And So you don't have to rush to the hospital.
Yes.
How about wanting to know your status so that you know the next course of action to take? Whether you want to quarantine yourself, whether you want to isolate yourself, so that you know, I have COVID-19, I don't want to spread it.
I think the rule of thumb should be, if you have any of those mild symptoms, the fever or a mild cough, just isolate at home. Because even if you get a confirmed diagnosis that it's COVID-19 and it's mild symptoms, the management or the instructions will be the same. Isolate, take care of the fever, rehydrate. And I've had people who have been diagnosed positive talking about how thirsty they are. So you need to really, really rehydrate, because I think it's because of the temperature and how the body is reacting. So you really, really need a lot of water. So the instructions, whether you have a confirmation or not, is the same. Now, remember, our hospitals, our facilities are we are resource poor and resource scarce, and they are currently in use. And when I was talking yesterday after this particular confirmed death, we are just looking at the numbers of critical care facilities and the beds. Out of the 400, with almost 90% occupancy, if you are to go to hospital and you get really, really sick, who do you put on a bed? Who do you remove? And they're already in use. So if you can stay at home when you have mild symptoms, the better. Now, the one that you must absolutely seek healthcare or a healthcare provider or go to a healthcare facility is when you develop difficulty in breathing, because then that needs attention from trained personnel. So if you have any difficulty in breathing, whether you are in the vulnerable group or not, then you have to go to a health facility. You can call in. If help is not coming fast enough, then you go to a healthcare facility. The point here is, for healthy individuals, you will live through any phase of COVID-19. You will live through, even if it's a common cold, even if it's a flu, whatever it is, you will live through it for healthy individuals. But if you develop difficulty in breathing, that's the time to seek care. Now, the other people who must absolutely seek care, whether it is mild or not, are the vulnerable group. And we've mentioned them, the elderly and the people with other pre-existing conditions. Those ones need immediate attention as soon as they develop the symptoms. So here we are trying to really live within our realities, that we do not have enough healthcare facilities, enough healthcare workers to take care of us. Now, if you look at, I know you've done the newspaper review, but the standard, healthcare workers who came into contact with the patient are isolated. That means you already have a shortage. And I can assure you, it is not only this particular healthcare workers that are isolated. There are a number of others in other health facilities that are isolated. So if we isolate everyone because they have come in contact with somebody who is suspected whether mild or not, then we are putting a bigger strain on our healthcare system. So this is the time to think, and allow me to borrow some term, bigly, and think of everyone. Think of your neighbor.
Should we not have all healthcare workers, especially those frontline ones, the ones that see all patients when they're entering the hospital, should they not be wearing protective equipment?
You've seen
just from the very beginning.
You've seen those hazmat suits. You will be in one for like an hour and you will be dying in there.
It's too uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Those things are uncomfortable. You have goggles, masks, and it's uncomfortable. I can assure you. Yes. Okay. Let's just call them hazmat suits. They're uncomfortable. So what health facilities are doing is at least to give them masks and gloves for a start. But now it makes it much easier before you come in contact. For example, if Eric, I'm not praying that you get this, but if you go to a health facility, as Eric, you say, I am so and so, I have traveled within the last 14 days and I have a cough. Just from the word go, so that they give you a different path to take. You will have actually saved a lot of people, not just the healthcare workers, but also the other people who are seeking healthcare in hospital. And you see, for the other patients, you don't know. Some may be immunocompromised for whatever reason. So it's time to think 360 and think about everyone.
In the spirit of 360 thinking, then also maybe health facilities should deploy somebody at the very entrance who asked, this is the first question that they're asking people as you walk in, travel history, left. No travel history, right. Thinking corona.
Yeah, and I've seen some health facilities have actually done that, where you have to declare your travel history so that they know how to
direct you.
And not just the travel history, but if you've come in contact with somebody who's recently traveled. So this is very, very important information, and we cannot emphasize it enough for the public. Yeah.
All right. A couple of days ago off social media, then have seen a flurry of recommendations from a would-be nurse with the NHS. But if we can break that down now into bits, and we can start from one of them in terms of questions, because now people are going crazy again, buying a lot of the stuff on this list, supposedly. It would sound like it's solid information, but maybe we can open it up a little bit then for some clarity. One of the things she says at the end of this, and then we can go into other details, is that a major relief to parents is that kids do very well with the coronavirus. They usually bounce back in a few days, but they will still be infectious. Just use pediatric dosing. Is this the case for children, Dr. Korir?
I think, yeah, from the studies in China, Italy, the let me say the countries that have gone ahead of us, children have actually responded well. Even as we reported the child in Nigeria, in Uganda, we expect that they will do well because so far children have been doing well. They haven't been as affected as the elderly. And usually children are in the group of the vulnerable, but this time around, they have been spared. So yeah. So the pediatric doses, I think most parents would know. I think almost every parent has a formulation of paracetamol somewhere in the house. So now the thing is, from again what we have seen in the other countries, what we call NSAIDs, your Brofens, diclofenacs, have actually not been favorable for people with COVID-19 or diagnosed with COVID-19. So the advice would be to use plain paracetamol. And you remember when you were joking here, we were saying those plain paracetamols are the ones that zinakaa kama patco. So plain paracetamol without any additive, no aspirin, no Brufen, no nothing. Same for children, same for adults.
Okay.
That
dosage.
So for children, the dose obviously depends on the weight, and there is a calculation to that. For adults, if I say it here, probably people will just start stalking. So let me say consult your doctor.
Excellent.
Yeah. But for children, it's per weight, so that now you also have to consult your doctor to tell you what
Can the pharmacist or the chemist also do the same? Can they advise?
Yes.
So when you're going to buy this at the pharmacy, you say, I want this for my baby, and baby is...
Yes. The beauty with paracetamol is an over-the-counter drug.
Yeah.
So let me say a legitimate pharmacy should have a pharmacist or a pharmaceutical technologist who will be able to guide. Now, Kenyans have to be very careful. Unfortunately, we're in a country where pharmacies are businesses, and sometimes even the people behind the counter are not qualified. So I think this is the time to really know which pharmacy is accredited, and there's a sticker they have from the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, and they should have displayed it up where it's visible for you to be able to confirm, even with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board.
Okay. She goes on to say that just things that you should... So she says a lot has been talked about in terms of preventing with the hygiene, washing your hands and, social distancing and such. But if you should actually focus on maybe if you actually do get COVID-19, what should actually be done. And then she goes on to say... buy Kleenex because you're going to need it, not the tissue paper that everybody's running out after. Paracetamol, like you've said, whatever your generic mucus thinning cough medicine of choice is. So check the label because you don't want to be doubling up on paracetamol. Then she goes on to say that honey and lemon can work just as well. And that the vapor rub for your chest is also a great suggestion. Why would she say these? Why would she give these particular ingredients? And do they actually help?
From the sound of things, from that list, it sounds like these are just things that will help with symptomatic management, like for a cough. If you're having a persistent cough, there are those cough suppressants that you can take. And I'm happy that she's talking about people to check formulation so that you don't also overdose on paracetamol, because some have different formulations. Lemon honey, remember, almost every Kenyan knows it as dawa. Those have actually been good when somebody has a flu, as a cold. So these are just things to help you manage those symptoms as they come along. Okay. So for me, it sounds sound. Yeah.
Where has she posted this?
She said she sent it out initially on her Twitter handle, and then from there it has gone.
It has been on almost every WhatsApp group,
literally in the world, and so everybody is now saying, if I actually get it, I can actually take care of myself at home. But
Erica,
now
you're not in any group.
Is she legit? I've seen these things, but I just don't read them.
But
I see something that says, "Oh, this one has come from I don't know, Doctor."
No, but this
immediately.
This particular one is interesting because it seems to be there's no fanfare around all of this. I'll find that out for you.
But I think the best thing would be now somebody to go directly into her Twitter handle.
And
these things that are being sent around could have been edited. Somebody could have added, a dash of vodka into that.
So I mean, just based on what she said so far, Dr. Korir, I mean, if it sounds adequate in terms of management, interestingly, she then go on to say that, look, you can manage most of these things on your own if you do get sick, right? Yeah. However, once you do develop breathing difficulty, and if your fever then goes beyond 38, you want to then consult a doctor.
Exactly. And remember, that's what we have been saying all along, that when it's mild, you can actually manage it if it's mild. But now there are certain conditions which is a red flag, which means you need to seek expert attention. And it's exactly what she's reiterating.
38-degree fever, start developing difficulty in breathing, consult a doctor. Before that, mild cough, just touching yourself and you're feeling like you're hot.
You can
try and manage it.
You can do these things at home.
It's 7:30. This is a situation room. If you've got any questions regarding COVID-19, ask Dr. Marcy, 0719-012-600. Post your questions on Facebook, Spice FM KE. We are live streaming there, and also on Twitter, @Spice FM KE. Good morning. Let's take a look at the traffic.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, let's see how things may have changed. Still issues at the ferry, and they're trying to sort that out. But for right now, at the moment that we see, it's not operating as they try to get the injured moved, and unfortunately people are crowding around the ferry right now, which is a situation that we don't want to see as it unfolds. Mombasa Road still moving a little bit slowly. Understand that the situation is that the roads are still very slippery, and we've had now the second accident on Mombasa Road that we see now, involving yet again another trailer right just past Cabanas, and that was the second one for this morning. So we want to be careful, folks. The roads are still relatively empty, but we do see that people are going to try to speed it up just a little bit. Thika Road is very clear from Roy Sambu, but then moving further outbound, we still have that snarl up with the river having burst its banks. Apart from that, not so bad. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see. It's Friday. We thought it would be clear and easy, but around the city there's some pockets of trouble. So let's see how we can make the best of it.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
28 to 8 o'clock. This is a situation room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We're discussing COVID-19 and Kenya's preparedness and our own preparedness and the kind of actions that we need to take on COVID-19. Stick around, because in the course of this show, we'll be talking to a couple of people. One of them has tested positive for COVID-19. They're actually admitted at Mbagathi. They'll be speaking to us and telling us their experience, what they're going through. They have some words of advice also on what's happening. We'll also be speaking to somebody who is outside the country to give us the experience of what's happening in India. We have seen pictures being shared on social media, cops whipping people and telling them, get back inside. now that we are starting to tighten measures of controlling movement in the country. So maybe some of those are some of the questions that Kenyans will be asking. Are we likely to see this? How is the government of India ensuring that 1 billion people stay indoors? We'll be asking as somebody who's in India some of those questions in the course of this show right now. You got any question, ask Dr. Marcy, 0719-012-600, or on social media at SpiceFMKE, Facebook and Twitter. You had a question that you're looking at, Ndu?
Yes, so I mean now the next one, just going off of this, then is it then necessary to stock up on medication? Even if you don't have...
No, stock up on what medication?
On this, that's what I'm saying, off of now this information that she has given us of the paracetamol and the et cetera, in anticipation that somebody might get this. Is that advisable, or you wait?
Stock up meaning... What?
Do you buy paracetamol and keep in your house?
Keep it for 3 months?
Do you keep Vaporub in your house? These are the questions that are coming through.
People have had paracetamol in their houses.
Yeah.
People have
Even
had Vaporub
in
their houses.
Honey, lemons.
Yes,
those are things that are there.
People have.
So you don't need to go and buy them off the shelf.
Essentially, don't become an auxiliary to a pharmacy.
Well, this is the thing, because then people ask, look, I mean, these are real concerns for people, because if you're being asked to stay at home, and then at the same time you're saying, okay, in the event that you might get this thing, there's certain things that you need. Clear concerns for people, City. And
let's pause. Let's pause. You're being told you have a curfew that begins at 6.
Understood, but let me send the question that is coming from people.
Between 5 and 6, you can actually go out and transact.
Yeah. And remember, pharmacies, hospitals will be open. Those are essential services, so they're not going anywhere. And luckily, we, for the paracetamols, we produce them here locally. We have companies that produce them generic. So there's no need to go and buy them off the shelf. Yeah. And how much paracetamol do you need anyway? You may take 1 dose and the fever is sorted out.
You know, if the lockdown meant you are in permanent curfew, you can't actually leave at all, the question would become extremely relevant, because then you'd be saying, we are on this lockdown for a week or 2, so let me stock up for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
That would make sense. But we are being told what we call a lockdown is from 7. From
7 p.m., yes,
to 5 a.m. So
yeah.
from 5 a.m. in the morning, you can actually go about your normal business
Activities.
until that particular point in time.
Exactly.
You can go out to buy. If the country is going to go on what we call, maybe referred to as a complete lockdown, I'm sure we'll be told that you are now not going to be allowed to move. At that point, then this question becomes extremely relevant. We are not at that point.
But even at that point, medical services are still essential services. So if you need to seek medical attention, really, no one will prevent you from going out and getting that attention. So I do not at all encourage people to stock up on medication. And talking of stocking up medication, yesterday I was talking to some of my colleagues, and the issue of hydroxychloroquine is actually now affecting people who are in need of it. These are, and I think there was a circular from the Pharmacy and Poisons Board about people with SLE. This is systemic lupus, people with rheumatoid arthritis, and another one, chronic, is it porphyria? Anyway, one of the conditions, 3 conditions. These are people who are constantly and regularly in need of hydroxychloroquine. Now they can't find it. And so some people who are perfectly healthy, because there's rumored that this may help them, have bought them off the shelves. So people who need them every other single day are not able to access these medications.
So the board has now said this is not an off-the-counter medication. You cannot go without...
It has never been.
But it wasn't ever.
It has never
been.
No,
it has
it
never
had to
been
be prescribed.
It has to be prescribed. But
We've just been going to pharmacists and getting...
And that's why I'm saying, unfortunately, our pharmacies are businesses that we all know. You can
They
go
are
to
Kenyan businesses.
Yes, you can go to any pharmacy and you can get any medication you want, unfortunately. Unlike in other countries where it's very strict, the only thing you can get over the counter is paracetamol and other NSAIDs or other painkillers. But here, now, people have actually bought these drugs off the shelf. And I was even thinking probably we should put a box somewhere and tell everyone who's bought it to just return it to a box somewhere. Because now they've denied people of medication that they need to live. And it's
You're talking
heartbreaking
of
at the
that
very least.
person who reportedly in the US bought X thousands worth tissue, another one sanitizers, and then found that they were stuck with them.
Yes.
Couldn't sell them.
Couldn't
Just
sell-
give them
couldn't
away.
Sell them.
Yeah. Mhm. So, but anyway, my ask of Kenyans is do not buy these medications if they haven't been prescribed.
So stop stocking up.
Stop stocking up for something you don't know. You're denying somebody else who needs this medication.
And you're likely going to poison yourself.
Oh, very likely.
Exactly, of course.
Very likely.
Of course. Of course.
Those are some of the consequences of self-medication.
I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing people blind because they overdosed on
Cases rising.
hydroxychloroquine. Yeah. These things have real side effects. And then now, how will we help you?
You know, if they're not prescribed and the right dosage taken, it becomes a poison actually, and a very effective one.
Yeah.
With the likelihood of it killing you. So you are thinking coronavirus will kill you, then you proceed to then kill yourself.
In fear of coronavirus.
Yes, by simply overdosing yourself.
So, Dr. there have been, of course, what we've been hearing so far is coronavirus is mainly going to your lungs and affecting your lungs and therefore your capacity to breathe. Is it affecting any other body organ? Kidneys, spleen, liver, anything?
Okay, so I was looking at one of the studies that then they was checking if it has any residual effects on any of the other body organs. And I'll retrieve that list and I'll probably read it in the course of this show. But they were saying the organs where there's a certain enzyme where there's a certain enzyme that coronavirus affects. So where that enzyme is found in the body, that's likely where it is. So let me confirm that list because it is affecting one of a very important organ for men. So let me confirm the list so that we don't cause panic.
Eric, don't worry, it's the nose.
Breathe, you'll be okay.
Let me retrieve
Just
that
now, just get
article. So, because I know very many men will
We
start
can go into a
panicking.
break.
As a point of this
As
issue. How are we going to breathe?
How are you going to breathe? So I know this one will be very important. And I think I got it because somebody asked me the same. So I went and looked about it. I'm like, So if we say it, I don't know if all the men in the country will start panicking. They'll probably start buying all manner of things. But the good thing is maybe they'll observe all this hygiene, social distancing.
Protective
and everything.
measures.
Yes. So it might actually help us in the long run.
All right. So we are talking about taking care of ourselves, making sure that you wash your hands regularly, you sanitize as much as possible. Once you step out of your house to go your essential service, you're coming to a studio and you're going back home, or you've gone for shopping and you go back home, what should you sanitize? There are people that I've heard saying, get back into the house, remove all your clothes, change into new clothes. All those things, are they important?
Well, I think it might be important, especially if you're in a high-risk area. If you're a healthcare worker, for example, that may be important for you to just remove that, put them aside, and they should not mix with any of the other clothes. And probably now this is the time to make sure all your laundry is also done with bleach, with disinfectant, so that you're safe through and through. But the areas to disinfect are anywhere your hands will touch. If you're driving, this includes your car door, your steering wheel, any other surfaces on the car. When you get to the house, your doorknobs, if you're climbing stairs, the rails. So anywhere where you're likely to touch with your hands should be, let me say, not sanitized, but should be cleaned regularly. Yeah, and disinfected. If you can use, as we've been saying, use bleach and water, that's the best actually.
You've been sneezing, you don't have all these other symptoms, but you've just sneezed into your elbow. And this is a sweater that I'm wearing. Should I remove this sweater as soon as I get home?
That's why you're saying, as soon as you get home, remove it and change into something else. And don't mix it with other laundry. Just being safe. Because right now, really, as we said,
there's not too much caution.
Yes.
No,
and right now,
you
with this
can't be
virus,
overcautious.
and with this virus, we are learning as we go along. We don't know the variant that has made it to Kenya. Maybe it's the one that sticks and remains on clothes for a long time. So it's mutating, it's changing. So you can never be too cautious. you'd rather, at the end of the day, say you did your best, other than say, I wish I could have done A, B, C, and D. I wish I could have done A, B, C, and D. You'd rather just tell yourself you did your best. If you get it, you're like, anyway, if I did all of these things and it came, then yeah, there's nothing else I could have done. So
more questions. Spice of MKE on Facebook and Spice of MKE on Twitter. Call in 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Dr. Mercy Korir, KTN's medical journalist, is in the studio. We're discussing the things that you need to know. There are very many questions that have been asked, not just today, but over time on social media, people calling in. Those are the questions that you'd like Dr. Mercy Korir to help answer. And also, we'll be talking to some Kenyans who have gone through this. Somebody who is currently at Mbagathi, who's in isolation, has tested positive, and we'd like to know what exactly they've gone through. So, any questions as I vet this caller?
Yeah, another one then that has come in. Interestingly enough, more and more of the same question now is that, is it just safer, even with only the curfew, than to just be at home, regardless of whether there's a curfew or not?
Definitely. Remember, when we started all this, the instructions were, if you can stay at home, stay at home. If you can work from home, work from home. Those were the instructions. Yeah. And we have quoted the Cabinet Secretary for Health severally on this, where he's saying Kenyans are not following instructions. And that's why the curfew, because as you've seen, the roads are still busy, people are still up and about. So that's why the curfew. So if you can stay at home, do stay
so.
At home.
I have a call on the
next
line.
Question, oh, wait, sorry.
Okay, before you go into that one. William is calling in from Nairobi. Good morning, William.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're fine,
Good morning,
thank you.
William. Good morning.
Yeah, it has been so long since I called.
Karibu tena.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I had a question to ask Dr. Mercy. Yeah, my question is, if the way I've realized is that coronavirus, some of the symptoms are more of correlations with people who have asthmatic conditions. And if you realize asthma is normally triggered in various angles. There are people who normally it's triggered with allergies with dust, and some of them are normally triggered with this weather vagaries. Like now we're having rains. Some may just develop a flu, and it triggers, it leads to a cough, wheezing in the air, and eventually it comes with asthma attack. So how will somebody who is asthmatic, how will it variate and differentiate in if at all he has symptoms of coronavirus or that one of asthma?
Okay, William, thank you. That's an important question. So people with asthma or any asthmatic or any chronic respiratory illness, any disease that they've been managing for long that affects their lungs are actually part of the group that is in the vulnerable, listed as a vulnerable group. So these are the people who should not wait at home to differentiate the symptoms. These are people, if you're asthmatic, if you know anyone who's asthmatic, this is a group of people who need immediate medical attention, because I remember we said coronavirus, the COVID-19, affects the respiratory system and it affects the lungs. So these are people who already have compromised respiratory system. Some people are on steroids, so their immunity is also compromised. So the group of people who are asthmatic or with any chronic lung disease are people who should not wait and differentiate the symptoms at home. And as we've said also, this is not just from illness, but even smokers, or I don't know about previous smokers, but we should also add them into that group because their lungs are compromised in a way. These are people who should not wait at home to differentiate those symptoms. So you seek help immediately. William.
You had a question?
Yeah, so with the curfew then, I think there's been a bit of, interestingly enough, that it has thrown in some confusion. Now with the curfew, that means that there's specific times then that you shouldn't be out, then giving permission for everybody to go out during those other times. This is the thing that has come in. Can we clarify on that? Are we still saying, regardless of whether there's a curfew or not, still stay home? Because it's like permission then has been given to be out and about doing whatever you wish then between 5 a.m. and 6 p.m. in the evening.
If you can stay home, stay home. If you can work from home, work from home. The people who must physically go to work, and you're seeing along the wrong road now, we are a walking nation. These are people who are living from hand to mouth. They have to go to these industries and some of these institutions to get the food for the day. These are people who must absolutely go to work or be out and about. But if you can work from home, if your employer has allowed you to go and work at home, or you are on unpaid leave or anything of the sort, because now different companies are instituting their own different measures, then stay at home. The lesser people we have out and about, the better for everyone. If you're going to look for supplies, you make sure you make it as quick as possible. Don't go and now start having meetings in the malls or supermarkets. Just go get what you need to get, and you go home. So the point is to have as few people as possible out and about. So I don't think Kenyans should be looking for ways out of it. No, I think we should see the gravity of the situation and the gravity of the matter.
Don't try and cut corners. Just, do what you must do, right? And follow the law. There's a list that has been released by the Ministry of Interior on who constitutes essential services. Now, those are the ones who will be allowed out, especially at night during the curfew hours. Probably the curfew hours could be extended. Now, let's ensure that they are not extended by, first of all, obeying the 7 to 5.
Yeah.
Because if you don't obey that, then the government will be forced to take other drastic measures. Good morning. It's 10 minutes to 8. 0719 012 600. Ask Dr. Marcy.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Dr. Marcy career. Ask us 0719 012 600 or go to social media platforms Spice FM KE on Facebook and Spice FM KE on Twitter. You can also find us on our live stream Spice FM KE YouTube. I'm looking at you because you're the one who's looking at the questions that are coming in.
I was wondering, I was like, okay, he's looking right at me, and I'm saying, okay.
What is not happening? As you read those ones, somebody sent me on Twitter. Probably I should just get that particular tweet. He was asking about food, and I know we have on different occasions talked about food, and yeah, here it is. Okay, he calls himself Ukoflani, rhymes intellect. Around July 2018, we ate some imported tilapia, and the entire family developed exactly the corona-like symptoms, except maybe sneezing. We were rushed to hospital and put on drips. We were told it was food poisoning. Can corona be transmitted through food like fish or meat? So I found it interesting. So I think, and I already even answered online, that when you cook food, it destroys the virus. So as long as it is cooked or it has come in contact with heat, then the virus will be destroyed. So you're unlikely to have been affected by coronavirus. So this is probably just some other bug that caused the food poisoning.
Okay.
So not coronavirus. So it's important for everyone to thoroughly cook their food.
Go to the phone lines. Miranda you say you're in Choka, Miranda?
Yeah.
Where is Choka?
Yes, Choka is here near Pipers, that long to Kamulu.
Oh, I see. What's your question for Dr. Marcy?
Okay, my question is, kuna hii kitu walisema about cashless transactions. You know, people are not, they are not getting it. They just said cashless transactions. Sasa mtu anakuja kwa M-Pesa, ananiambia anataka kutumia 100. anataka kitu ya mi.
Yeah.
They are not getting that. They are supposed to send us from 1,000 to below 1,000 and below. So we are getting a challenge as business people. You find that somebody comes to buy a tomato for 10 bob.
Yeah.
Sasa nataka kutumie 10. So you find it hard.
Why?
Running the business.
Why?
Reason, like for me, I don't have the till number.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody tells me I want to send you 100 bob, I want milk and bread.
Yep.
So it becomes a challenge to me. Because if he sends me 100 bob, it means at the end of the day, it's me who's going to incur an extra cost.
What cost?
When I'm going to buy some items. You know, the transactions are below 1,000.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that sense? And you find that.
So if everybody sends you, as a trader, if everybody is sending you money, then you have over 1,000 at the end of the day, and you want to buy you want to replenish your supplies, costing say 3,000. It's gonna cost you.
Maybe if I go somewhere, like where I buy things from, those people don't like this in me cashless transactions.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you like, Baraza?
So another challenge is they have said about cashless transactions.
Yep.
Somebody's coming for just a magic box.
Yep.
Yeah, we are having that challenge.
So would you
personally, I don't want to need this money, but it forces me to accept the money.
I see. Okay.
So you'd rather they pay in cash. You'd rather that they pay in cash.
Okay, what the government should understand, most of the Kenyans, they don't have money to put in the M-Pesa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People already have cash. So it's a legitimate concern, actually, that he's raising. Somebody who's just going to buy a matchbox. How much is a matchbox?
10 bob.
So 10 bob, and you don't have that on M-Pesa, you only have the 10 shillings. And then the trader does not want to accept cash. What do? These are the, those are the challenges that many are facing. And like what he was talking about, so he's a trader, everybody comes and pays him via M-Pesa,
10 bob,
and he's not going to buy goods worth less than 1,000 shillings. So what happens to him?
There's a cost to that.
Yeah, he's going to incur a cost, and yet everybody sent him without yakutoa because now it's free. So it's a good feedback that the mobile telco operators should actually start considering.
Yep. Catch-22 situation. On one hand, you want to keep your people free of the virus. On the other one, life must go on.
Yeah. What do?
These questions are clearly indicating that people understand what's going on. They are concerned about it, and they are responding to the immediate issues that they confront in their lives. Now, this is a good sign. So it isn't that the message has not reached people. It has.
It's home.
It's not that people don't understand. It is there. They get it. But now it's a question of how do we keep explaining to our people so that they understand in detail this is what's happening. You know, there is no question that someone is asking here which is not relevant. Because usually it pertains to them.
Yeah.
Their particular and peculiar circumstances, and that question is important to be responded to. Which brings me to the issue that we were talking about earlier, Eric, when we talked about these so-called cash transfers and what the government can do. This one isn't a solution that fits all. This is a moment when people offer suggestions and say, even if you're thinking about it, think about it a little more.
Yeah.
The government owns 35% shares in Safaricom. We know how much money Safaricom posts as a profit every year.
Yeah.
We know that Safaricom has a platform, and that's why people are talking about cashless transfers. But there's yet another facility that Safaricom has. It's called Fuliza. Now, it is something that everyone who has a Safaricom line has access to. Theory. If the government wanted to ensure that people got money directly, this could be a clear avenue. If other telecom operators have a similar avenue, it would be an avenue. Now, the question would be, how much do they give? Is it as a loan? I would suggest it as a loan. But I would suggest you expand the period within which it can be paid.
Interest free.
Interest free.
Yes. And if you spend 500 and it means you spend 500, you have the rest. If you pay 500, it means you're back to where you started. Meaning,
So money is in your wallet.
Thank
You're
you.
just spending it as you need.
as you need to over a period of time. The indemnity that the government can provide. Remember, the government taxes such organizations. All right? The government has the tools to say, let's negotiate how we are going to do this thing. We will do this for you and you do this for us. The company will come back and say, there is likely to be a default rate of this percentage. And say, okay, of the percentage of profit that is owed to us every year, let's talk about this 20% percentage of this. And let's see how we can indemnify you. Meaning, the tools already exist for Kenyans to actually receive this thing that we're talking about instantly. So that people actually have that credit facility to go about their business. Now, if this is there and you tell someone to go and quarantine themselves, they will.
Coming up to the top of the hour, reminders of the elephants. The elephant of the day.
When two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Everyone has heard of this saying, it is important. But among the many small elephants we've had of terrorism, of HIV, of TB, we now have another elephant. It's called the coronavirus. And in the process of settling this, a lot of grass is going to suffer.
Indeed. This is today's proverb with Siti Muga. Good morning. It's coming up to 8 o'clock. Keep it right here. The show continues. We're here until 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Right, looking a little bit better.
Traffic.
Both of those accidents have been cleared away, and the situation on Thika Road looking also a lot better now that they're trying to control the traffic outbound on Thika Road, and hopefully still National Highway Authority is still asking that you approach with caution. Still looking at what is happening at the ferry in Mombasa right now. The crowds have been cleared or are trying to be managed at this point, and hoping that it will flow a lot smoother now in terms of the management by the Coast Guard and the police. We'll take a look at that in a bit and see how that is a lot better. Everywhere you go this morning, being asked to, proceed with caution. The roads are still slippery in most parts of the country, not just Nairobi, around everywhere. Spice FM KE, if you see something that we ought to know about, do let us know or give us a call on 0719 012 600.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The only way to start your day, also Kenya's biggest conversation. This is The Situation Room. We're broadcasting in Nairobi on 94.4, in Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7. Live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, Spice FM KE, also on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. Ask Dr. Mercy. Dr. Mercy Career is KTN's medical journalist. She's our guest host for this season, so she can be explaining to us things that we may need to understand regarding this coronavirus. Many questions coming in. You've got any question, 0719 012 600.
All right, another question. What do we expect from the first week of April? I mean, just if we're looking at timelines of how things have happened in other countries, and we're looking at next week as a significant or critical week as concerns cases in this country.
I think what we are looking at definitely is an increased number of people that we're going to confirm. Now that I hope that the 5 labs across the country, that is from Busia, Kilifi, Kisumu, Kericho, Nairobi, and the National Influenza Center, the first 5 in the different counties are Kemri, are all equipped to diagnose or to confirm whether somebody has coronavirus COVID-19 or not. If these ones are well equipped now, or they have the capacity from the diagnostic kits that we got from Jack Ma, then we expect that we'll have more numbers. Definitely, we expect that we'll have more confirmed numbers. So when numbers increased, it shouldn't be a cause for panic for Kenyans, because I know people are always waiting to hear the CS say, now we have an increased number. Then when it's 3, guys are like Fuchs. Or if it's 1, guys are like worried. There's a mixed reaction. So I don't think the numbers increasing should not really be a big concern. By the numbers that the government has, we are still okay. In that we are either pointing them as imported cases or people who've come in contact with people that have either imported or have come in contact with somebody who's imported. So that for me, where I am, is a point of consolation. Where I would be worried is now when we start having community transmission, where you cannot pinpoint a finger to where somebody got the virus from.
But Dr. Masi, I wouldn't even call it an opportunity to worry. What testing does, it gives you accurate information.
Yes.
So you have a clear idea of what it is that you're dealing with. And again, if we are talking about outbreaks in the city, then for most people it becomes a disease in the city. But if you test, and you also test in our various counties, then it gives a sense of realism as to how serious the COVID-19 actually is. So it is no longer a city disease.
A Nairobi problem.
No, it is not. It is a Kenyan problem, because at your very doorstep, you will have the problem. And then even when we talk about solutions to these problems, there'll be clarity, because you will know that you're not dealing with something which is far away from you. It is something that is next to you. So all these measures that are being mentioned apply to you, not somebody in some other place. It is you specifically. So these testings become necessary. If somebody has the coronavirus right now and they're not exhibiting signs that we've been told of, it doesn't mean they don't have it. They have it. What the test will do is just tell
Confirm.
you what you had all along.
Yes, that one I agree to it. That is important. The other bit that I was trying to make a point to is when there is community transmission, when we cannot say so-and-so traveled from the US and that is why, or so-and-so met somebody who traveled from the UK or wherever, Italy, if you cannot pinpoint the source, to me, it points to a bigger problem, because it means this thing now is widespread and you do not know. Everyone now becomes a suspect. So then, and you'll find at that point now the case definition will change, because it will no longer be that either whether you've traveled or you've come in contact with somebody, then it becomes everyone. And when it gets to that, then it becomes a bigger problem, because now how do you do contact tracing? How do you know who is who? It becomes a bigger problem at the time. Now, the other thing to look out for in the coming week, and I think Dr. Mwangangi mentioned it yesterday, is Kilifi. Kilifi is a county to watch out for as an epicenter. And I think also Siaya is another county to watch out for. I would add Makueni. They had a nun, and it was in the paper on Monday, who had also come in from Italy, I think, and had mingled with the community. So for me, those would be the places to really watch out for. Obviously, Nairobi is always a point of concern. But now these other 3, I would add them onto the list.
And Kakamega, where there was 1 confirmed case already?
No, and at least you brought that up. And Dr. Amoth, during the press conference, quickly clarified. what the governor did was to announce the origin of one of the people who've been confirmed. Not that there was another confirmation. And it was very categorical. You see, now when we have many centers of power, as you have been saying, now we'll think that now all of these people or all of these areas have a confirmed case. So the issue here was the governor was saying so-and-so from Kakamega County has tested positive. Not that now this is a new number. And I think it is very important, and I hope the Ministry of Health, the NAC, the National the Response Committee, would nip it in the bud. Because now if Turkana announces, Kajiado announces, Machakos announces, then it will be chaos all over the place. So I hope they took a lesson yesterday and they will nip it in the bud. We just need one source of information.
What's the proper position on this? Is that this person is originally from Kakamega, but they haven't been to Kakamega?
Yes. Okay, I don't know if they haven't been to Kakamega, but what I know is among the 31 confirmed cases, one of them is from Kakamega. If you heard Dr. Mwangangi, she listed the counties like this 31 are spread across Kajiado, Nairobi, and I think it's one of the papers here has it. Yes.
So they have been in contact with people in those counties. For example, like the Kilifi county, the Kilifi cases that have been confirmed are people who have been in Kilifi.
Yes.
And they have come and tested, and now they have been brought to the isolation facility.
Now,
similar to Kajiado, like Rongai obviously is in Kajiado County.
Okay, so this particular 31, like even including the patient who died yesterday, they have their native counties, and part of the other data stratification is their native counties where everyone comes from. So what the governor was making reference to was where one of the 31 was coming from. So these counties, the ones that are listed here, Nairobi, Kajiado, Kwale, Mombasa, Kilifi, are where those people were gotten from as they were being diagnosed. I hope I've made sense. Like when they were being diagnosed and confirmed, like so now our patient zero was...
contact tracing, we are contact tracing in those areas.
In those areas, yes. Now, like for example, you are in Nairobi, but probably, let's say your ID says you are born in Turkana.
Yeah.
Then the governor for Turkana, okay, let me say Kakamega. Then the governor for Kakamega comes up and says, we have one confirmed case from Kakamega. You get? It's because your placenta was buried in Kakamega. Wow.
Okay.
The question I would ask is, when someone is released from hospital, what exactly are we telling the public?
So now there's a protocol to follow before somebody is released, and according to WHO, they have to have had 2 consecutive negative tests for COVID-19. So by the time you're going home, they have had at least 2 consecutive.
There's the first one, and then there's the confirmatory one.
Yes. Yes. So if the first one is done, then the second one turns positive, you start again until you have 2 consecutive tests that say
over
now
what period
negative.
of time?
Now that period of time, I'll have to check for you and see what they're using. But it has to be within those 14 days in which you're in isolation. I'll just check that now. That's the other thing to add on the list.
So essentially, somebody who has been released from hospital is coronavirus free?
Yes, they are coronavirus
has
free.
Tested more than once.
Yes.
And the result has come out negative.
Not even more than once, at least twice. 2 consecutive.
And is there a situation where people are being told, even if you test negative after these 2, maybe you need to recheck and determine maybe after a month, after 2 months, in case there's a recurrence?
Okay, you're asking this question in another way. The people are asking yesterday, and I've seen it online, that if I've gotten coronavirus, I have gotten over it, can I show up again with the signs and symptoms? And I think the general consensus and answer is yes, because it's a respiratory illness. It is still here with us, so you can actually get it again if you do not observe all these other measures and you come in contact with somebody who actively has it. And I was seeing I think it was The Guardian or The Mail, one of them, that a certain percentage of Chinese who had tested negative and cleared have actually reinfected again, because it's still there. People are they're still trying to manage the situation. So we are not yet out of the woods. And I think the bigger headache now, even on a global level, is how do we contain this so that we don't have a cycle now where the wave is down and then reinfections, because now it means we'll be in a perpetual.
It isn't actually perpetual. It's something that we're learning from the coronavirus, but let's learn from other viruses like HIV. People got scared, people died, then ARVs became accepted, people were getting better, they're looking. So, all the precautionary measures that had previously been taken got lax. So, the chances of infection, new infections and reinfection now became another reality.
Yep.
So now the whole issue had to be tackled yet again, but perhaps using different methods. One of the things that the tool that was used was called a PNS, Partner Notification Service, where this contact tracing that we're talking about was now being used. You get somebody who comes into the clinic because it's voluntary, and while you're being tested, you're asked, is it possible for you to tell us the partner or partners that you have? And we will find a way of, it's explained to you how they'll be contacted and what will be discussed with them. And why this was important is because those partners or partner may be a partner to this individual, but they may have other partners. So that way, that network of partners is captured. But that was something that was arrived at because it was realized, yes, you had solved one problem, and in solving one problem, another one arose. Yes, exactly. And this one was even more serious. Now, if you're talking about age groups, it became even more critical, because it became noticed that among younger people, HIV was not a concern. Not really. People were more concerned with pregnancies than they were concerned with actually HIV. So, realities about this particular virus, many of the things we're talking about are not unique. Why am I having this discussion now? Because I'm saying the government actually has the means to understand this, because it's a virus. We had a pandemic, again, brought about by a virus. We use methods in which to contain. And the people who were involved in this process didn't leave the country. They're here. The organizations that helped bring these numbers down didn't go away. They are here because they're government organizations. Lessons learned are directly with us. Now it's a question of how we apply these lessons learned, because the structure actually exists.
And it's in place.
It's in place.
All the questions that are coming in, we're going to be answering them. Dr. Mercy Korir is in the studio. 0719-012-600. Also post your questions on Facebook. Spice FM KE on Facebook. At Spice FM KE on Twitter. As well as posting their questions on our YouTube channel, Spice FM KE. We're live streaming there. We're broadcasting in Nairobi, 94.4. Mombasa, 87.9. 102.5. Kisumu, 96.0. Nakuru. Eldoret, 96.7. Nyeri, 90.9. And Malindi, 97.7. It's 8:15. Let's take a look at the weather, and then the conversation continues.
Online, mobile, and on radio. Facebook at Spice FM KE.
18 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 15 through most parts of the city. Rain expected later on. In Nakuru at 16 degrees, thunderstorms expected in the afternoon, then with highs of 22 and lows of 15. In Nyeri at 18 degrees, it's cloudy conditions this morning, giving way to rain in the afternoon with highs of 23. In Eldoret at 16 degrees, it's mostly cloudy, thunderstorms expected in the afternoon with highs of 20 and lows of 13. In Kisumu, rain showers already at 22 degrees. It will continue with thunderstorms later through most part of the day. In Malindi, light rain showers at 28 degrees, high of 31 combined with thunderstorms in the afternoon. Mombasa, it's raining as well at 27 degrees, 32 degrees the high and lows of 26. In Kampala this morning, it's cloudy conditions at 21 degrees, a chance of rain and thunderstorms in the afternoon with highs of 23. And in Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees, it's mostly cloudy, chance of rain in the afternoon, then with highs of 32. In Johannesburg at 13 degrees, it's mostly cloudy, highs of 21 and thunderstorms in the afternoon with lows of 11. And finally in Lagos at 27 degrees, it's clear skies all through with highs of 33 and lows of 26.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
In the room. My name is Eric Latif. We have Siti Muga, Nduoko, and Dr. Mercy Karir, our guest host for the season. We know there are a number of cases that have been confirmed in the country. How many do we have, Ndu?
In the country, 31.
31 cases in the country.
Yes.
One of the confirmed cases is a man called Stephen, and he's joining us now on the line. He's going to give us his experience. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for talking to us. This is a situation room. Asante sana and karibu.
Yes.
Now, Stephen, you are at Mbagathi Isolation Ward.
Yes.
How long have you been there?
I have been here for 3 days now.
Sorry, we didn't get that.
I have been here for 3 days now.
3 days.
Yes.
So we can say that, is it 3 days ago that you were tested and confirmed positive of COVID-19?
Yes, I was tested yesterday, but one.
What is your history of? Was there a history of travel? Was there contact with somebody who had tested positive previously?
No, I traveled from Switzerland
Mm-hmm.
after the country in which I live ordered schools to be closed.
Right.
Yeah, and at that time I had some slight cough.
Mm-hmm.
When my temperature was checked at school,
Yep.
it was just okay. So I thought it was just a cold, like many students had, and they got well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when I went to Geneva and used the Emirates,
Yep.
all the way to Dubai, where we had a layover time of about 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then I traveled to JKIA.
At JKIA, you were screened again. Of course, in all those other airports, you are still being screened.
What they did was just to check the temperature.
Yeah.
And those who had a fairly high temperature were taken to a different place, and I think they were advised accordingly.
Right.
Yes.
How was your temperature throughout the journey?
My temperature was, I think, 36.4, and I was tested at JKIA.
So at what point did you start experiencing the symptoms, develop the symptoms?
Well, I can't be very sure of the precise time, because when I was at school,
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling, I had some cough, as I've shared with you.
Right.
It kept getting on better. And so even when I was at home, I did not have any of the symptoms. I thought I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But after some time, I was feeling very weak. And so I thought it wise to just go to hospital and check.
How long ago, how many days prior to turning up at Mbagathi had you arrived in the country?
I arrived at the country on the 16th.
Yep.
And I was supposed to use the 5:40 flight to Kisumu, but unfortunately it had some issues.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent a night in the Western Hotel before resuming our journey next day in the morning.
So what made you then realize that there was a problem? Did you take yourself then, or developing symptoms after some time? What made you then take yourself to hospital?
Yeah, I think for me, I was actually suspicious because I thought maybe I was suffering from malaria.
Uh-huh.
And the only thing that came up was that I was feeling very weak.
You were feeling weak?
Yeah, and so when I went to hospital, I tested positive of malaria.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I shared my travel history as well, and just while at hospital, my temperature went so high, and I think the doctors thought twice to consult the Ministry of Health. Mm-hmm. And they were advised to take me to Bagadi in an ambulance.
Okay. Stephen, kindly walk us through your journey. Like when you arrived at the GKI, is it that you went to Weston, or were you in quarantine at home? Which facility or which hospital did you first go to? Can you just walk us through that journey from when you arrived? You say on 16th?
Yes.
Yes. Could you just walk us through that so that we have a picture of what happened along the way?
So I had booked a flight from Nairobi to Kisumu prior using the 5:40 airline, but the airline had some issues. So what the passengers demanded was that the airline should take care of them because it was not their fault that their flight was cancelled so late.
Yep.
And so the airline decided to, I think they made some calls and decided to take us to Western Hotel, where we spent the night, and then the next day in the morning, we were allowed to travel to Kisumu. So from Kisumu, I took one of the matatus called Bungoma Line, which took me all the way to a place called Sabatia.
Right.
From there, I traveled home on a boda boda. Yeah, so at home, I tried to isolate myself, and it proved quite difficult, especially with my close family members.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was not showing any signs. I did not feel anything that prompted me to think that maybe I had the virus. Yeah, so later, as I said, when I was feeling very weak, I think my dad carried me on a motorbike all the way to Life Care Hospital in Bungoma.
Yep.
He had thought of going to St. Mary's Hospital in Mumias, but he thought it was very crowded and it might take a lot of time before I'm attended to. Yeah, and that's why we went to Life Care Hospital in Bungoma.
So the self-quarantine measures that you had been advised basically did not, they didn't work, because first you mingled with people from the airport, you went to the hotel in Nairobi, you boarded a flight to Kisumu, you boarded a matatu to Sabatia, you took a boda boda home, you mingled with your family members.
Yeah, but usually after the self-quarantine measures,
Yep.
I don't think there's anyone who maybe talked to us about it. And those who were told probably are those who had high temperatures and they were asked to go to a different place where they were advised from there. For the rest of the passengers, all the way from JKA, they were just allowed to proceed with the journey.
So at that time, like that's what I was saying, because if you had presented with any of these symptoms, then you would have been in a separate group, is what you're saying, essentially.
Yes.
So because at that time, when your vitals were being taken, you hadn't presented with any symptoms. So is that why then you were comfortable to then go ahead with travel, because you didn't feel you didn't have anything?
No, I think for me, it's very difficult because I had to travel all the way from Geneva, and I was using an airplane.
Yep.
I also had. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
continue.
Yeah. So, and I also had to travel all the way from Nairobi to Kisumu,
Yeah.
then to home because I did not have any other means of getting home.
Okay.
And in addition to that, I had not shown the symptoms. And so I felt confident that probably I was not okay. But I was observing all the other measures where if you're supposed to maybe sneeze, make sure you're sneezing in your hand, avoid shaking hands, and all that.
I'm curious. When you were at Geneva Airport and then you went to Dubai, tell us a little bit more about the measures they had at these airports.
Now, well, at the airport, there is nothing special that was done at the airport.
Geneva,
At Geneva Airport,
Dubai,
nothing completely because when we alighted, the only thing they did was to check our temperatures
Yep.
and then we proceeded with our journey.
so people just mingle as they normally would on a normal day without the coronavirus.
It's not a normal day because everyone is taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
That
So
is the only-
you're observing the social distance measures and all.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So how did you get to Mbagathi from Bungoma?
I was ferried in an ambulance. Yes, all the way to Mbagathi.
Yep.
I had my dad and my brother with me. Yeah, and I was told I was a suspect. And then I was advised to stay behind while they were advised to go back home to be quarantined from there.
How did they go back home?
They went back on the same ambulance.
Okay. Okay.
So when you got to Mbagathi and now they told you that they advised you that you're a suspect case.
Yes.
This is when now they did the tests.
After some few hours, my samples were taken,
Right.
and then the results came the following day.
I see.
So
Yeah.
how are you feeling, or what symptoms do you have or have you had since then? How are you feeling generally? We have some people that are with you in Bagath who say that this particular virus is causing some unexplainable degree of thirst. So how are you feeling?
Well, I think the case varies with people, and for me, I think this disease is very deceptive because I honestly don't feel I should actually be in hospital.
So you have no
Yeah.
symptoms right now at all. The fever has gone down.
The fever has gone down,
No
and I'm
coughing.
feeling okay. No coughing at all.
Have you coughed at all since arriving in the country?
I can't remember.
So
Right.
probably not.
Joint aches and all.
Sorry?
Joint aches.
Any-
Joint ache? No, not really.
So, of all the symptoms that we say that we've been told would come along, you're not feeling any right now, even though having gone through and the results of this test were positive.
So I think initially I had a cough when I was still in school, and
In Geneva.
that got
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that got well, and I was fine, and I thought I was actually okay. Yeah, and I also had temperature when I was checked at the hospital at Bungoma.
Okay. Stephen, tell us now about the Mbagathi isolation facility. Are you in
Yes.
a ward by yourself? How are you getting served food, medication,
it
and all?
like?
How is it like?
I think it's bearable. We are in our own rooms, but the rooms are quite spacious, and they have a maximum capacity of 4 patients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the beds are not filled as of now because we have fewer patients.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise everything else is okay. We are getting food, though sometimes we are served a little late, but we're getting food.
So, Stephen, about your contacts, how did the ministry officials or the people who got in touch with you, how did they list these contacts? What did they ask you? Did they take name? How was this contact tracing done by the ministry? Or what did they require from you so that they know who you have contacted, where, and how to reach them?
So I've been working closely with them, I think for the whole of yesterday.
Yeah.
And one, they wanted to know the flight number of the flight of the plane that I took from Geneva from Dubai to Kenya.
Yep.
And then I also shared information about the 5:40 flight,
Right.
and they tried to also question me on if I can get the names of the people whom I talked to or had contact with during the time when we were waiting for the flight from Nairobi to Kisumu. And then from there, they also asked about the details of the vehicle that I used traveling from Kisumu to Sabatia, and if possible, to also provide information of the boda boda who carried me home. And they also have the family's details, and I think the county government of Kakamega is working with them to make sure that the disease does not spread further.
Do you know if they've been able to reach anyone of these people that you may know, like your family members, the boda boda guy? Do you know if they have made any contacts whatsoever?
Well, I don't know. Maybe for my family, yes, but for the others, I'm not quite sure. Yes.
Is your family in quarantine as we speak?
Yeah, my family is in quarantine. They were advised by the county government to stay at home.
Yeah.
And I think their samples were supposed to be taken. I'm not sure if they have been taken yet, but I think they were to be taken.
To the best of your knowledge, are they observing the quarantine?
To the best of my knowledge, they can't leave home now. Yeah, and I don't know how the county government is working on trying to make sure that they can still get food and all that, but I'm sure they're at home.
How has this experience been like, Stephen, psychologically, mentally? Like when you are told you're a suspect, you get confirmed, now you're in isolation. How would you say your last 3 days have been like?
I think for me, my greatest fear was coming to isolation and knowing the sense of boredom that comes with it. But otherwise, I was very positive about the disease, and we had been cautioned earlier of the dangers of panic. So that is why I actually made that video trying to encourage Kenyans to take this seriously, but not to necessarily panic. So I'm taking it very positively.
That's good.
Are there any people that you're with at the isolation center who've been confirmed or who are still suspects who are quote unquote crashing under the pressures of all of these things?
I have not seen any so far. I've only seen one who spent most of the time in bed.
Yep.
But when he needs something, he just gets up, goes to get it. So I'm not sure if he's in deep pain, but I think he's okay. Yes.
How many are you in your ward right now? You say it's a 4-person ward and it's not full. How many are you?
We are 6 in our ward.
All of you positive?
Yeah, all of us are positive.
How are the others faring?
The others are, I think one is a French national, and I don't know about the others. So I've not been able to speak to them because I can't speak the language. For the fellow Kenyan citizens, we have been speaking to each other, and most of them seem to be good.
Are all of you there because either you have traveled or come in contact with somebody who's traveled or come in contact with somebody who's positive, or are there people who have just been random?
Those that I know who are here, most of them are here because they have actually traveled. Yes.
So you say you're not exhibiting any of the symptoms right now. You're feeling okay.
Yes.
What did you say of the other 5 when you speak to them? Are they saying the same, or are there some who are coughing, talking about high fever?
Yeah, there are some who are coughing. Yeah. And there's also a close friend of mine I just met here, and he told me he traveled from Zambia. He says he's feeling, there's nothing that he's feeling that is strange or new. He has experienced similar feelings before, but he has some slight difficulty in breathing.
Right.
Yeah.
There are Kenyans who are asking if you're in isolation, what kind of treatment or medicines are you getting while there?
Well, I think that maybe varies. I'm not sure because I've not yet received any drugs. But my friends were given yesterday vitamin C, and I think maybe other drugs that probably the doctors thought appropriate.
Do you have an indication of when you can go home or the process of them discharging you to go home? Do you have an indication of that, or do you know how that process will be like?
Well, I'm very hopeful that it will be soon, and we're told that our samples will be taken after every 7 days.
Right.
Then when we test negative, we can be allowed to go back home.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, Stephen.
Thank you.
And we appreciate and we wish you all the best.
Okay, I'm very grateful.
Keep staying strong and keep recording the messages that you say you're recording, and you're posting them on social media?
Well, I just posted one, and it was all targeted at fighting panic.
Right.
And I think that's all I wanted to do. I don't think I have anything else.
That's all you wanted to say. It's important, I think, that if you've already started, telling us how you are, just keep telling us how you are. It's important that, we rally behind you.
Yeah, last message.
Yeah.
With people is that one, I think we must make sure that people are taking this seriously. But we should also avoid, and this is the fellow Kenyans, we should avoid pointing fingers and maybe asking what the government is doing and asking what doctors are doing, and ask ourselves what we ourselves are doing as Kenyans to protect the elderly and to protect those who have other conditions that might make them more susceptible to the adverse conditions of this disease.
Very good message.
Otherwise, thank you very much.
Before I let you go, Stephen, what has become of your initial diagnosis of malaria? What have the doctors told you about that?
I tested positive.
Have they tested again since you came into Mbagathi?
Sorry?
Have they tested again since you came to Mbagathi?
Malaria?
Yeah.
No, I have not tested again. They were just advised by the hospital to continue the medication,
Okay.
and I was given some AL drugs that I'm using currently.
Asante. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Stephen.
We wish you well.
Thank you.
Stephen is a Kenyan patient who's tested positive through COVID-19. He's currently at the Mbagathi isolation ward. He's just given us an experience of, what he went through. You can hear the issue of self-quarantine and the measures being taken at the airport or throughout that journey. And, well, they were not being given us this constant information. Why it not that Stephen felt he needed to go to hospital? Why it not that he felt that he needed to give his travel history?
Yeah.
Many would also just, be assuming.
And then for him, probably they would have just thought the fever is malaria and,
Exactly.
and just continue the malaria medication, nothing else.
Yeah.
But of significance is when you consider the patients who are with him in the isolation ward, they seem to report that there's nothing that they're experiencing that they haven't experienced before.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to alarm them.
Yeah.
Now, this will be the case with many people.
Yes, it
You're
will.
telling them about
It
these
will.
signs and saying that we've felt them
But
before.
I've been here.
I've had them before. And yes. So why is this different? The difference is you go and get tested.
That's it. 22:09. Let's take a look at traffic.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
All right, School Lane in Westlands has been blocked due to a fallen tree near the hotel. So you need to use an alternate route if you're in the Westlands area. There's a tree that's fallen right across the road. And of course, this is due to the rains. So please approach with caution. In fact, don't approach at all. Use a different route if you're trying to get through there. Everything else seems to be okay. The roads are still slippery this morning. So the temptation is to move a lot faster because there's not much traffic, but the roads are slippery. So you want to be careful. Round about that, nothing more to report. The ferry, we don't know if the ferry is back up in action just yet, but we're going to find out and let you know in a short while. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let's know what it is that you see. Trying to keep everybody moving as best we can.
Spice and everything nice. All right, okay. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
What
Nairobi.
experience would you like to share? 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Spice FM KE on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and also www.spicefm.co.ke. Dr. Marcy Karir, you have been asked by CT Muga, discharge protocols.
Yes. Okay. So what the Ministry of Health is recommending, or rather what they have as a protocol, is one, patients can be discharged from the facility if symptoms are resolved or if they are able to self-isolate as indicated. So there's a whole protocol about self-isolation. Then for viral clearance, just to make sure you no longer have the virus, one is when symptoms are resolved. The second one is having 2 documented negative tests. The ones I was saying are 2 consecutive tests. And then they have to be 24 hours apart. And then they start this to check if there's any if the virus has cleared at least 10 days after the initial diagnosis. So like a week afterwards, 10 days after the diagnosis. So that's when they check if it has cleared, if at all. Yeah. So those whose symptoms are resolved can go home. But if they are able to self-isolate, then they can also be allowed to stay at home. Maybe I should just say what this self-isolate is. Is that while they are at home, they stay away from others. They can be in their own room with adequate ventilation. They can use a separate bathroom if available. If sharing, they should be disinfected regularly using household disinfectant or soap and water. They should wash hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. They should avoid sharing personal household items, such as silverware, dishes, towels, sheets, among others. But this one should be washed thoroughly with soap and water. They should cover their mouth and nose with tissue when coughing or sneezing and throw it into the trash. The bin, we are saying that has to be covered. They should wear a surgical mask. This is now where the mask comes in handy because you don't want to spread the virus from yourself to whoever is taking care of you. And then the rest of the family should be advised to minimize contact with the patient or wear a mask if they have to come in contact with them. And then obviously wash their hands with soap and water frequently. So it's the same advice as for everyone in the general population, everyone who is in quarantine, whether confirmed or not, it is the same guidelines that apply. So for Stephen, we expect that probably next week he'll be telling us that he's going home, he's being cleared.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing I'm happy about Stephen talking to us is I think once we start seeing people we can associate with, because remember, since Friday 13th, we've just had patient 0, patient 1, patient 14. It becomes abstract. But when we can start, say, Stephen,
Yes.
and now the gentleman we lost yesterday, when we start seeing, putting faces and names behind these numbers,
Yes.
it starts sinking home.
It sinks home.
So I'm actually very happy and glad that Stephen has talked to us and has talked to the public, because now it becomes reality. And then you see, from him moving from Nairobi to Bungoma, he used public means. So there are
Through
other
and
people
through.
in that matatu
Yep.
who are exposed. He used a boda boda.
Yep.
So this thing can come all the way from Geneva to Sabatia, just like that. So I think for me,
To Bungoma.
he said his village is in Sabatia.
Yes, they went to the Bungoma hospital, but it's in traveling to Bungoma that I'm speaking of.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it can come all the way, and everyone along that route is susceptible. Everyone is vulnerable. Yeah.
This is true.
Questions coming in. This is one particular one from a gentleman called Paul Mugambi, and I think we'll call him shortly. He says he's a person who lives with a disability. He's visually impaired. Okay? And he's talking about, he even authors a blog, why isolation is Greek to the disabled Kenyans. Because when the measures are being put in place, are they factoring in the people with living with disabilities? When people are talking about panic buying, are we all considering that there are people who may not be able to go and do this panic buying? When you're talking about isolating and avoiding use of hands and touch, for the blind people, touch is their sight. So what measures have been put in place by the ministry and the government, and what can we advise before we wait for the government to do all those things? What is it that we can advise persons living with disabilities to ensure that they're doing the best they can to avoid this virus?
And actually, as this was going on, I was seeing my colleague Sada Hassan there had covered that story on persons with disability, and he was actually talking to somebody who was who's visually impaired, okay, who's blind,
Yes.
really.
Visually impaired.
Okay, City Moga. So she was talking to somebody who's visually impaired, and actually it's a concern, and it's not just visually impaired, but also the deaf.
Yep.
And they're actually raising an issue like when the cabinet secretary is addressing the nation and the president is addressing the nation, who is addressing people who are who have hearing impairment?
Yes.
Because
You learn very fast.
I'm a good student. Because there's no one who is addressing them. They have to rely on now people translating to them whatever has happened. But at least now I've seen, at least for KTN, we are now having a sign language interpreter there. So these are valid concerns, and I don't think when measures were being put in place, I think there are a forgotten group of people that nobody really thought of them, and that these are people who are as vulnerable as we are. So I think for me, as a public, what we can do, and as we say, we think about your neighbor. When you sanitize everywhere, when you disinfect, you'll also help the people who are visually impaired, because if they're coming to touch, then it means the surfaces is clean.
Yeah.
On their own behalf, or where they are, they would be cleaning up, they will be disinfecting or sanitizing as much as possible, so that they don't also bring whatever germs to the area that has been sanitized. So I think now, as a society, we all have to step up and stand up for this particular
Everybody,
group
for
of
everyone.
people.
For every one of us.
Yeah, so we should not wait, and Stephen actually said it. Let's not ask what the government is doing.
Yeah.
This is all of us, so let's also consider some of these people.
We'll speak to this, Paul, the person who's visually impaired. Let's hear what concerns they have. But in the meantime, let's go to Parklands, where we have Lydia, our friend. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning, Spice FM. You have been talking something very important. And we should not concern ourselves what the government does. We should also, each one, take care of ourselves. Somebody sent me a WhatsApp saying that our best help is what we eat and what we drink, because we all make up about what we eat and we drink. And they mentioned that some of it should be lemon, lime, avocado, mango, tangerine, pineapple, and orange, and garlic also. So we should measure what we take inside. And my view is our bosses are our blood cells. They are like little fish. They carry the food everywhere. They carry the waste away. They go to our lungs to take the oxygen we breathe in, to produce electricity to pump our heart. Look at the work they do. But nobody seems to talk about our blood cells. They need to be fed well, and these are fruits, the fruits that I named, they are natural, made by God. Tablets are made by men. Sometimes
Lydia,
they are
we
fake.
thank you because everything you are saying lends itself to healthy living and making
Yes,
sure you have a
you're right.
balanced diet, making sure that you
Yes.
stay healthy. And it is a
Yes.
good message. Everyone must ensure they stay healthy.
Nobody talks about that. Everybody is talking about doctor, doctor, doctor. Our blood cells are our bosses. And also another article came about tea. For many years, they said tea is a very, even no doodles want to go to the tea plant. So they say,
You've gotten to tea now.
Yes.
Once again, there is sufficient literature that tells you about the benefits of tea, even the benefits of coffee, benefits even of
Yes.
cucumbers and tomatoes, and even bananas. Again,
Yes.
healthy living. And we
Healthy,
thank you.
yes.
It's obvious to us that you're someone who's very conscious about health.
Yeah.
and now
Yes.
tea leaves, when in the office, I open the tea bag and I put the tea leaves in my cup. When I finish my tea, I eat up the tea leaves.
Lydia,
Stop now.
we were doing well up to the point where we have to go to now chewing and drinking tea. Now that one, we've gone stratospheric here.
Tea is
Lydia.
the world's famous
Lydia, we want to
Thank you,
thank you for
Lydia.
your contribution.
Thank you, Lydia.
Is there harm in swallowing tea leaves?
No, it's not known because we haven't experimented on people actually eating tea leaves and chewing it. We know about Mira, we know what it does to your teeth.
And tobacco.
And tobacco, we understand. And by the way, tea leaves, in that regard, may not be that far away from tobacco. And we know the harm that it does to your teeth, to your health. You know, one of the things about the things we eat or ingest, believe me, with every health benefit there is, if you look carefully, there'll be an opposite side of this particular coin, depending on how it is. If you overeat, you know what happens to you.
Yep.
And yet that food is actually useful to you. So to put it very simply. But what Lady is saying is actually true. There are things that we've been doing for the longest time, and it was really us staying healthy. If you've forgotten about them, revive it. Stay healthy. Do the things that you normally did. Eat these natural foods. Remember the world moved from organic food to something a little more exotic. And they've gone full circle and gone back to organic.
Back to organics.
Yes, we were always at organic, and then we have tried to move away from it.
But you've brought up a very important point because, Dr. Masi, people keep going round in the circles with this, and there's a new fad for everything, every new season. So this season is about honey, and then it goes, and the next one is be about, I don't know, some funny fruit,
Cucumber.
chia seeds, and everything. What would you say? I mean, I know you're a doctor, and then there are those people who tell us they're nutritionists. Need to make sure that you balance, and then there are those who come and they give us all these personal experiences.
I think, especially at the season that we are in, we should just rely on what has been tried and tested
And are proven to work.
to work because of the current season we are in. Because now, if somebody comes with their own personal experience about what they've done something, then you incorporate it and then it has an effect on you. Who do you blame? I think what has been tried and tested is that all these foods, and like the ones Lydia has listed, the fruits, the tangerines, the lemons, the avocados, they're good for your diet. Incorporate them into your everyday diet.
And intermittent fasting.
Personally, I don't advocate for it. I've seen people who have almost collapsed because they're fasting, I don't know, to lose weight. So personally, I don't, because you shock your body. 1 minute you're used to eating a mountain of food, then the next minute you're not
Nothing.
eating anything.
You're
You'll die.
An anthill of food.
You'll die. They say everything, for anything and everything to be sustainable, it has to be done systematically and gradually over a period of time. Unfortunately, we find people want, today you're 100 kgs, you want to be 50 tomorrow. You'll die. There's a system to it. So, and it is just gradually reducing what you've been eating, one, then you move to healthy eating and you incorporate it into your diet and you find that it is sustainable. I remember one time I was reading in one of the papers that somebody was actually complaining this places, this, I think it, one of the columns where people write in to complain about something. So this particular lady had gone to the doctor to do tummy tuck, the liposuction and tummy tuck to, slim her. She looks figure 8 and everything. Because she had tried gym to lose weight, it wasn't working. She had tried
Dieting.
to lose weight, it wasn't working. So she decided to go to the doctor, liposuction, tummy tucks, trim and everything. Then she was happy, obviously, after the surgery with the plastic surgeon.
Okay.
But then about a month, 2 months
I
later,
was waiting for that one.
she wanted to sue the doctor because her weight was back. But like,
when you go to the gym, you will feel very hungry when you leave the gym, won't you?
you will.
Precisely. Now, there's the discipline of knowing what to do when you feel hungry. Because hunger, like many sensations that we feel, they peak at a certain point. And if you don't attend to it, it peters out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Let's pick 2 calls before we go to the top of the hour. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, hi. Good morning, guys.
How are
Good
you?
morning, Zachary.
Wow, this morning you came by bringing us hellfire. But I congratulate you for contacting that victim. Because now, as you have unanimously agreed, we are now starting to put faces on this disease, yeah?
Yes.
And that is very good. But my spirits have been dampened by the story that that guy has given. The way he moved from Switzerland to what do you call it? The place he was going. Yeah,
Sabati and Bungoma.
Yeah, I don't know, South Mogirago there. Those funny names.
No. Sabatia.
Sabatia.
Okay, I'm fond of South Mogirago. That's why I'm mentioning it.
Go ahead.
Well. That actually should up our caution, yeah. And like now, I hope that people are listening to Spice FM on those sides and have heard actually the story that you have been given, yeah.
Yep.
And that they should actually, call that the guy has called upon everyone to be extra cautious. And he has posed us a good, he's given us a charade. We are talking of the government has not done this, the government has not done, what are you doing? You as an individual.
Yeah.
Like me now from today, I think I'll be only going outside when there is this need to go for a call of nature, I actually am thinking of digging a hole and staying there.
Why haven't you done that so far, Zachary?
Because I had not put a face to this, but now I've put a face to
Now it's serious.
Kenya,
Now
yeah?
it's coming closer
Now
home.
it's very serious. Now, on the other hand, that lady, and I love her because she always makes me laugh, yeah? She's got good contributions. But then again, I don't know how many of us kwa ground. You know me, I'm in the pale mnaita kwa ground. I don't know how many of us can be able to go to buy uga, buy ile mafuta ya kupima, and then we have the luxury of buying the fruits that he's talking about, yeah? But then if you keep on emphasizing that, take a fruit, a fruit every day, take a fruit every day, take an egg, you can be able to, you are going a step further, advising people, because actually health is a factor in managing this menace, yeah?
Yes, indeed. Zachary, I want to thank you very much.
I also congratulate you because of the time that you have given to the coverage of that disease, yeah?
Asante sana. Have a good day and make sure that you're staying at home, Zachary.
Thank you, guys.
Don't dig that hole yet.
Stay above ground, but stay locked in. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We are continuing this conversation even into the next hour. In the next hour, we'll cross over and speak to somebody in India. Those photos that we've been seeing and the videos and the kind of measure that we're seeing being taken, we want to hear firsthand what's happening on the ground. As we go to the top of the hour, CT Muga, today's proverb.
When two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Actually, this suffering is actually called they are trampled on. And you only need to look at the size of an elephant, and you also need to consider the weight it therefore bears. That grass really suffers. And if I may add, if there's any shrub or any bush nearby, they also tend to suffer. This is what you call collateral damage. So proximity to the grass will bring you problems if the elephants are fighting.
Even anything under the grass.
Usually, even the earth gets a little upheaval as a result of that particular
What
fight.
can the grass do to ensure the elephants stop fighting?
Well, the grass can't stop growing where it grows.
Okay.
Well,
Unless it
could.
dries.
Unless it dies.
No, actually, no, it could.
But the elephants will still fight.
They could, because
Well,
in certain
okay.
parts of the world, people actually grew grass on their roofs.
Okay. It's 9 o'clock. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay.
Traffic.
On Wayaki Way, still a problem right now. This is because of the tree that fell in the upper Westlands. So this is affecting all the way down towards Wayaki Way, down towards Chiromo. There's quite the hold up there. So please approach with caution or plan a different alternate route so that you can know exactly where it is that you're going. All right, on Thika Road and Mombasa Road, a little bit slower than we expect this Friday morning where there are less people on the roads. Let's see what it looks like later. But for now, you might want to approach with caution. Everywhere else looks okay. Not so bad. Actually, no traffic at all. It's a Friday morning, less people on the roads, except we had those trouble spots. Everything else seems to be okay. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
At
the
2
only
after
way
9, this is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. 94.4 in Nairobi, Malindi, 97.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, Eldoret, 96.7, Nakuru, 96.0, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa. Well, we are continuing the conversation on COVID-19, the measures that all of us ought to take, what we need to know, and that's why Dr. Mercy Korir has been our guest host for this season. And she's here in the morning. You want to call her? 0719-012-600. Ask your questions on Twitter at SpiceFMKE, at SpiceFMKE on Facebook as well, and SpiceFMKE on YouTube.
With all the illnesses and sicknesses that we are used to in this part of the world, it has been put out that our bodies are actually able to resist this or come or bounce from this much better. Dr. Career, is that the case, that even if we do get, if anybody does get COVID-19, that because of what bodies are used to, they'll be able to come back from it stronger, quicker? Or is that a myth?
I think for now we can consider it a myth, because remember, as we say, we are learning along the way. We are getting to discover this virus as we go along the way. We've not had it before in the African continent. And yesterday we were actually having a conversation and saying, in Africa, we have a high burden of HIV. We have a high burden of TB. And actually, some people might have TB and they don't even know that they have TB. We have a high burden of malnutrition in children. So we don't know. Somebody may look otherwise healthy, but they may have some other thing that is underlying that we don't know about it. So we learn along the way. We may, because our children, for example, we have a high incidence of malnutrition. And when you talk about malnutrition, it's just not in the arid and semi-arid lands as you know them. But even in Nairobi, the urban poor have quite a big challenge of malnutrition. So we don't know if these children, for example, get COVID, what would be the effect on them. So you're saying anyone who is at high risk should not risk their lives further.
Yeah.
We are lucky that at least we have a good percentage of healthcare services, 60% as public. So that means anyone can walk into any public facility and be attended to. I think like the shuttling that we're seeing around, this is obviously not right, but it's in a private facility. This, if you go to a public facility, would not happen. So I think the message should be anyone who is at high risk should not risk their lives further. They could be HIV, they could be having TB, it could be malnutrition. Let them not risk, let them just take precaution, because we do not know the extent or what this virus would do to us in an African continent, because so far what we've seen has been in the West. Maybe we'll learn something from South Africa, maybe we'll learn something from Egypt. We don't know as it is. So you can never be too cautious as a person.
With all of this. All right. Then would we, from all of that, then do we just go and say we need to take with what we know so far is how we need to deal with this thing, and now stop all these other theories that come in? We don't want to deal with things that we don't know. You don't prepare beyond what you already have on the table in this case.
Exactly. I think what we've been saying, the stockpiling of everything is not necessary. Stockpiling of medication is not necessary at this point in time, because this virus, it may have more effect, but at least we know at the bare minimum what it will do. We know the kind of people who it will not spare. So far, it's not going to change it. If as it mutates, it's probably going to be more lethal than we see it. So let's prepare with what we see. Let's not go out of the ordinary. I don't know if people, probably maybe people think soap and water is too simple as a solution to take it. But some of these simple things are actually what will keep us afloat and alive. So let's deal with what we know so far. As things change, obviously we'll keep updating and informing people as evidence comes in. We know that studies are going on. People are looking into possible treatments. All of these things are happening. So as we go along, we will adjust with what we get. Yeah,
I'm sure there'd be argument to why this is happening. But if you think about people who have come from Kilifi, from Rongai, now from Kakamega County, they're all being transported into this one facility at Mbagathi.
Yeah.
Is this one way, just thinking about it, would be it's easier to manage them when they're all together. So it's easier to transport and bring them here. But does it tell us that Kakamega, for example, is not ready to handle such cases?
And we had this conversation yesterday when we were looking at the statistics of the counties, and we are wondering, are they really ready? We are hearing from healthcare workers on the ground who are saying they haven't been trained, all of them, they don't have PPEs. So yeah, it could be an indication that the systems across the country are not prepared. It could also be an indication that probably when the people who've been tasked, the duty bearers who had been tasked with preparing the country, could be they focused on Nairobi. They just focused on the capital and are yet to devolve that focus to the other regions. That's another possibility. In my own personal and honest opinion, I think every corner of the country needs to be prepared, because going by what we're seeing, and now America has surpassed China, and the question is America the next epicenter? We've seen New York, we've seen California, Washington. These are states that you would think would handle it. But now people are literally crashing under the weight of this.
Well, I mean, 17,000 cases in one day is not...
that is
astronomical.
That
It's a major
is
number.
A major number.
Even at its peak, I don't think China recorded such numbers.
No, not in one day.
So it means there's a problem somewhere. So I think for us, we should have everyone ready. Stephen should not have had to be transported via ambulance all the way to Mbagathi, because now everyone who was handling him there becomes somebody who should go on quarantine. And these are healthcare workers. So if you put, let's say, two healthcare workers there on quarantine, and yet other cases are coming in, how many people will you quarantine, and for how long? His family members who would otherwise be productive and doing other things now on quarantine.
Yeah.
So we should look at it holistically. It's important that every corner of this country, starting with the high-risk counties, the 14, are prepared and are able to deal, so that you can contain. Remember, we said we are not stopping the transmission. We want to delay and contain it. Now 31 may be a manageable number, but you never know what will happen next week.
Can I interject as you continue, Dr. Korir? Because this is, I think, very important to, that the virus doesn't move, because the virus needs a host.
Yes.
Right? So essentially we are the ones as humans who would move the virus.
Exactly.
So now when you talk about containment, essentially what we are saying is that we don't want to be the vehicle for this virus, because then it cannot move, it cannot thrive. So then would we see a situation if everybody stays at some point, because it would find nowhere to go, essentially, it would eventually die out?
The ideal situation in this case, for example, is, let's say we are all on lockdown or all stay put where you are, and the Ministry of Health and the other officials are aggressive in tracing everyone and testing everyone in that trace, so that you are able to actually map out and know these are the number of people who are positive. Then you're able to handle that situation. That would be the ideal situation, because then after you have mapped out everyone, you isolate them, then your people can now be free to move around, because you have contained it. And it helps that now we have stopped flights coming in. Our border crossings, I don't know how tight they are, so that you're able to shield.
Yeah.
Because
by and
as
large
long as
now we're dealing with internal cases.
Yes, but as long as our borders are still open, the official and the unofficial ones, you never know. As long as as long as the other neighboring counties haven't contained their cases, you still remain at risk. So it's about delaying transmission and containing, because if we have a surge, I can assure you, and hopefully I am proven wrong, as CT would say, we will crash.
There's something we said before we went to the top of the hour. The way those patients were next to Stephen at Mbagathi are saying, I'm not feeling anything I have not felt before. I'm not feeling anything I haven't dealt with before. And even when we were speaking to the tax expert, Edward, yesterday, he was saying, look, probably this is a thing that will come and Kenyans will be like, I have dealt with chikungunya, I have felt chikungunya, I have felt dengue fever. So you're used to dealing with this. So when somebody is hit by coronavirus, they're actually going to be able to pull through stronger or better.
You have to explain that it is none of these diseases that you know of. Now that communication is what gets tricky. Then you're going to have to also fight against care-seeking behavior that our people have had for the longest time. You're then going to have to address what our people understand as being ill and what they understand as diseases. Being ill means you're so sick you can't even breathe.
Yeah.
And that's when people seek healthcare.
Yeah.
As long as you feel generally okay means headache, normal.
Normal.
Sniffing, normal. Coughing, normal.
And
Sneezing,
that
normal.
might help our
Some aches
healthcare.
in there.
That might help our health system.
Why do you say
The
this?
same way we're telling people don't panic, only seek assistance if you get to that critical point. When we get to that point where people are feeling, well, I have a fever, I have.
We are actually there. It's not that we are getting there.
I'm dealing with it.
We are actually there.
So
because
we'll not really overwhelm our health system because we'll only seek them when we are not breathing.
very true. In fact, if you
Okay.
want, please, Mercy, go
Don't,
ahead.
no, I just want to quickly correct him. Don't wait to a point where you are not breathing.
No, don't. Because
then-
Because then you
Actually,
are
you're done.
you actually stop
You're
breathing
not going to be
completely.
one of us anymore. So,
when you have difficulty in breathing.
difficulty. in
Yeah.
breathing.
When you have the
You know
first
what I mean.
signs of difficulty, not when you have the first signs.
not when you finish
Yeah.
breathing.
No.
When it
Take
starts.
action.
Yeah.
If you look at what is happening in America right now, all right, because they have what you call seasonal bugs, which are associated with the cold, and they also know people die from this, and even this season they died. So what you're saying becomes very relevant when you look at that place, because they're saying many of the symptoms we ascribe to the coronavirus are the same things you might also say about the flu. Isn't
The
it?
pollen allergies.
All these things that happen during this period in time. Now, if this is what people are used to, now, and the season of cold isn't over. So now, when people have those symptoms, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to rush to hospital.
Everyone's going to go to hospital.
The Americans will.
They're the ones I'm talking about. Actually.
Yeah.
They actually have.
Now I'm now juxtaposing that with the Kenyans.
Yeah, that's
I've
what I'm
just
saying.
come out of remember the other lady who were from Mombasa? I have just recovered from dengue fever.
Yeah.
Put me down, I survived, I went up. So that resilience
Is there.
But
is there.
You see-
It's something that could work in our favor. In
for,
terms
for,
of
for somebody like her, for example, because these are viral diseases behave the same,
Yep.
where they have their own course where they will put you down and then they will just peak and then they'll just
loud,
go on
then
their
they'll
own.
go away.
This is the nature of viral diseases generally.
So
So for somebody like her who had dengue fever, which is a viral infection, it put her down, she got over it and she's okay. For me, I'm happy for her because it's an indication that she has a good immune system.
Okay.
So if she gets coronavirus, that one is a lady who will live to tell the tale.
You know, there's something that perhaps we fail to understand, and we don't talk about it. You see, please remember, with this attitude that we have, again, it's attitude. Huh? What do you think Kenyans battle with on a daily basis? If I live in Lamu, am I going to be scared of a possible terrorist attack, or am I going to be scared of coronavirus? Am I going to be scared of malaria, or am I going to be scared of heart disease? I'm simply saying that for the large majority of Kenyans, if you ask them right now, even this coronavirus is not really worrying them. What is worrying them is what they're going to eat tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's worrying them is the
Actually,
effects
yeah.
of this.
Yes,
Yeah.
not the coronavirus, because this virus has to join the queue. If it's diseases, they have other diseases that worry them more than this, because these diseases they
and
know.
they've battled and survived.
If
Yeah.
you look on the list, I think
battle-hardened.
Corona at the point where we saw that list was at number 19. And there were a few after, but it was number 19 on the list. Cardiovascular being up there, malaria, tuberculosis, even HIV, even when we've seen it at the point of containment, is still higher up on the list than Corona is. So if you want to look at it like that, in terms of what people are thinking when it comes to healthcare and diseases, she's still taking
So
a back.
if we want to move it up that particular list, this messaging, as we speak all the truths about it and we repeat it so that it is understood and is internalized, it needs to be communicated in a way that the importance we know it has is communicated and received in the same way.
Sure, at the
Because
same
right
time, we
now-
don't want to. Yeah.
Right now, the messaging we have, it is not being received with the earnestness and seriousness that we would like it to
Sure, at the same time, we don't want to say that because it's not top of the list, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the potential to ravage communities.
Yes.
You know, to say that, look, it's still important that you do the certain things that are required for you to remain safe and healthy. But at the same time, also taking cognizance of the fact that people are dying from much worse.
Should you get it, you have a 91% chance of living.
of survival.
93. 6 at the very least.
You have a 96% chance of survival, so fight it. Basically, that's the message. Should you get it, fight it. You've fought before, man.
You see, Eric, you've put it simply, and that's the way this thing perhaps needs to be explained. After all this lengthy wash your hands, wash your feet, wash your nose, you need to be able to tell people that should you get it, your chances of survival are higher than your chances of dying if you take heed of these simple instructions that you're being given. That's all that is required. See, there's a narrative in the West right now. A friend of mine shared this with me yesterday. And they're saying that if you look at the way this thing is being managed, for instance, in the West, it goes this way. High-ranking government officials. So if you have test kits, they're the ones who are likely to be tested first.
Yeah.
Then you talk about those who are perhaps movie stars, people who are celebrities. They follow that list. Then when you come to the local ordinary mwananchi, unless you're dying of it and it's clear, it's very unlikely that you're going to be given attention. Now, this isn't something that falls in the realm of conspiracy theory. It's just a reality that even here you can see it. These test kits are limited.
Yes,
And
they
yet this wash your hands, keep social distance, is something you can follow
Something you can do.
Easily.
And it will give you a much higher chance of
Or
defeating.
surviving.
Forget it. You won't even get the disease.
18 minutes after 9. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 18 degrees. We're looking at highs of 23 and lows of 16 today. A chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. In Nakuru, it's cloudy all through at 18 degrees. Rain in the afternoon, 22 degrees the high and the low of 15. In Nyeri at 18 degrees, it's cloudy and showers imminent for the afternoon period as well, with highs of 22 and lows of 16. It's raining in Eldoret at 17 degrees, 19 degrees the high and lows of 13 today, with thunderstorms expected throughout the day. It's raining in Kisumu as well at 22 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 20. Looking at lower temperatures in Malindi as well at 25 degrees currently. Scattered thunderstorms throughout the town, highs of 31 and lows of 27. Cloudy conditions in in Mombasa at 28 degrees, highs of 32 and lows of 26, and thunderstorms expected there as well. Cloudy in Kampala at 22, thunderstorms expected later with 23 the high and lows of 19. It's 29 degrees and mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam, 32 the high and lows of 25 with a chance of rain in the afternoon. It's mostly cloudy in Johannesburg at 16 degrees, rain expected later with highs of 21 and lows of 11. And finally in Lagos at 27 degrees, it's partly cloudy through the day, highs of 33 and lows of 26.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
22
FM,
minutes
Nairobi.
past 9. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. What are you doing about coronavirus, COVID-19? What are you doing? What measures are you taking? Or are you just saying that the government should do this, and the other? No. All of us have a role to play.
Yes.
And that's what Siti Muga was saying just before we went to the break. That, everybody has a role to play. And what you ought to do for yourself will help you even avoid seeking the medical care and the government intervention.
This is where we now go back to this clarion call that we've had for the longest time with our county governments. Tell them, look, have this preventative approach to healthcare. Most of the problems that people have and which escalate to the major healthcare centers, they don't even need to get there. Some can be even managed at dispensary level. They don't even get to healthcare center level. And they can be managed at that point. And this is where healthcare workers become very crucial because, one, they're locals. Two, they have knowledge. Some of them are probably retired healthcare workers. But they are people who are already respected opinion leaders in the society. So they're listened to. So when they communicate, people resonate very quickly and they understand it very quickly. Because these are people who've been an integral part of that community from the get-go. So when such a thing happens, it's called preparedness. It becomes easy. You cascade it to that group of people and then they cascade it to the rest of the citizenry.
They sort of take over.
They do take over.
And help you with certain headaches.
They do. You see, we used to talk about extension workers. You had them health, you had agriculture. You know how it worked. Those people lived among you. They're people you saw on a daily basis. They didn't need, even though they're not advising you, you went to church with them. So when they talk to you because you know their role, they're easily listened to. Why do you think church people are listened to? Because they have that role. They are in that community with you. They are people who have grown up as you see them. They aren't strangers. Meaning, you already have trust. The trust deficiency that we see with big government isn't there. None of these solutions require some heavy expenditure. No. It just requires thought and implementation, really.
And I think this should have been the time to utilize every chain of the healthcare system as we have it, straight from community level to the dispensaries, health centers, and the hospitals. And in fact, the hospital should be our last line of defense. All of these things, we should do them at community level, at household level, so that you reserve the hospital, or rather we reserve the hospital to those who will absolutely need it. And remember, those who will absolutely need it, if they get respiratory distress, it means they will need to be on a ventilator, they will need to be ICU, and even the West has a shortage of all of these things. No one is exporting, no one is manufacturing.
Dr. Right now, I think the Americans are beginning to understand that Obamacare would have been very useful in such a situation.
UHC, yes.
Yes. It would have been useful. But there it was, blown out of the water. And now, at the time when it's most needed, even if you think about it, it isn't there, is it?
No, there's no there. They have a lot of complications with their healthcare system. You see, when a system is complicated with checks and balances here and there, when it is privately funded and not government funded, there's so much that you can do even as a government because there are all these private interests. For example, a business, somebody with a hospital or an insurance is in business. A pandemic comes, they are the first people who will not pay because they are looking at the bottom lines, and this is not what they signed up for. So what happens to that person who needs to be attended to because they have signs and symptoms of COVID, and it may not even be COVID, it could be those pollen allergies or a flu. It becomes a problem. And I think after this, it would be very interesting to compare America, Canada, UK, Thailand, the countries that have a universal health system that covers all 1 inch, so that we see. It would be a very good lesson, in my opinion, for Kenya, because we are struggling and thinking about UHC, and we think it's this complicated monster. I think COVID will lay it bare. We'll be able to see what we need to do and the potential benefits. And the beauty, again, is that we are all in this together. Whether you're sitting with the high and mighty or your mama mboga, we are in this together, and you fall sick, the destination is the same for all of us. That public health facility that somebody has neglected for long. So hopefully, this will be a very big lesson that we'll carry along and do something about it. Because these pandemics are not going to end with this one. With climate change, as long as we're interacting with animals that have viruses that we didn't previously know, it's not going to end now.
What are the
Yep.
numbers to call?
Um,
People need to know. I mean, so yes, get in touch with the Ministry of Health, get in touch with the government, and the numbers to call. So the first one was
719.
719,
Uh-huh.
and it's toll free. You don't pay a thing.
Yeah, it is toll free. I think all of them should be toll free
Mhm.
as of now. And what's it? I remember was it on Tuesday, on Wednesday, here on this show, there's somebody who messaged to say they have somebody who has not been attended to, had come in contact in Kilifi with the Kilifi deputy governor, had not been attended to, and we are looking for this number, and it was busy. So in the course of that day, we were able actually to get other numbers. So the second line by the Ministry of Health is 0729 471414. 0729 471414. The other one is 0732 353535. 0732 353535. The fourth one is 0748 592455. 0748 592455. And the fifth one is 0800 721316. 0800 721316. And I think we can put this up on our various social media handles so that anyone who needs to access any of these lines can be able to, because we know now people are actually calling in quite a lot to ask.
To find this number.
Yeah, to find
so
this
the
number.
numbers are going to be put up on our social media platforms, especially on Twitter, on Spice of MKE Twitter. Just follow us, Spice of MKE Twitter. Anytime you need to refer to this number, you'll find it there. I think our social media producers are going to be pinning it. It will be the pinned post. So you can get that number constantly. If you need the number to call the Ministry of Health, you'll find it on our Twitter handle. But also, the very easy one to remember,
719 or star 719 hash for the USSD SMS prompt. But yeah, those are the contacts. And I think hopefully after this we can convert that 719 to our emergency medical number, because the other one, I don't know if anyone has ever tried to call, is it 912? You sometimes you may not even get any help, especially at wee hours. So hopefully we can convert this to be like a medical or a health-related emergency number for Kenyans.
It should say, like we have always known police emergencies, 999, they work, 999 works. And you should also have just the same kind of number. So if we say that 719 is the number that we're going to be using, then 719 always stays as our medical emergency number to call.
And as long as the back end is well sorted out
to
respond.
People are able to go through. You can, someone will pick, or even if you don't get somebody picking immediately, there's a voice prompt that tells you, you've gone through, hold on, you're on the line because we're waiting for the next available agent. That is something to think about. This is a situation amidst Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at traffic. We'd like to know what's happening at the ferry, if you've got information on that.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Right,
Traffic.
what's going on at the ferry? Services have been suspended for now because of what we saw happening early in the morning with the stampede that took place. Number of people injured right now stands at 26, and so we need to be very careful approaching the area. They will probably come back into operation in the later part of the morning, so you need to stand by for that. But for now, not available. Okay, looking at Thika Road, it's a lake. What used to be the Thika Superhighway is now a lake, and that is because a river has burst its banks, and so people are being asked to approach with caution because they're not quite sure how deep it actually is on the road, and this is due to the flooding that we see in different parts. Still a stand-up in Westlands around School Lane where the tree has fallen across, and they're waiting to remove that so that people can move. So things here and about in different parts of the city. So generally what we're asking is that you be careful, guys. Spice of MKE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see. We'll keep monitoring the situation and give you the information as it comes through.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
28 to
Nairobi.
10. Good morning, and how are you doing? So we know that City Muga.
Yes.
Order.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Here we are. So the curfew takes effect tonight, 7 p.m. 7 to 5 from this day going forward until the day we are told it's over, right?
Yes.
Being a Friday, you can guess what's happening.
Even before we go there, I think it's necessary. I think people assume that, with people not understanding that it's important to know that it doesn't mean that you should start going home at 7.
Mm-hmm.
It means that 7 o'clock should find you
In the house.
in your house.
Indoors.
So we know that some companies, some offices have taken and said, in order for you to be home at 7, understanding that traffic is an issue. Now, really, no, it's not traffic on the roads. However, leave before so that you are home at 7. Because now what we are saying is that violations of this curfew actually are criminal offences. And you will be arrested, detained and charged in court and be asked to pay a fine. You will not then be remanded, but you'll be asked to pay a fine. Is being deemed as a criminal offence in this case. So it's not that 7 o'clock you start scampering about and trying to find you won't find a public service vehicle.
Anyway.
You will not find a taxi service. You driving a vehicle should not go unless you are essential services, whereby you are needed to be at work or you should have been doing something at that time. You need to be off the streets. And people are, can I walk? No. Can I be walking? No. You need to be at home.
Ka kwako.
Somewhere indoors.
For avoidance of doubt, this has been gazetted. Enhanced national response to the pandemic. Classification of critical and essential services. 1. Medical professionals and health workers. 2. National Security Administration and Coordination Officers. 3. Public health and sanitation officers in the county governments. 4. Licensed pharmacies and drug stores. 5. Licensed broadcasters and media houses. Kenya Power and Lighting Company. 7. Food dealers, distributors, wholesalers and transporters of farm produce. So those ones will be allowed to travel at night. Those ones who are wholesalers and transporters distributing farm produce, coming from Kinangop and bringing the needs to the market. 8. Licensed supermarkets, mini markets and hypermarkets. 9. Licensed distributors and retailers of petroleum and oil products and lubricants. 10. Licensed telecommunication operators and service providers. 11. Banks, financial institutions and payment financial services. 12. Fire brigade and other emergency response services. And 13. Licensed security firms. 13 categories of essential services. So if you're not a truck driver bringing produce, not the ones that are taking goods across the country. If you're not a truck driver bringing produce to Nairobi or to whatever market, if you're not a medical worker at national or county level, public service, public health official, if you're not a broadcaster, working in a bank, working in fire and emergency services, telecommunications, supermarkets and hypermarkets and mini markets, pharmacies and drug stores,
oil products and deliveries.
All those.
Somebody was asking then, the legal professionals, we see them active a lot. Does this mean they are not an essential service?
Lawyers.
Yes.
At this juncture, they're not. But at a certain time, they are. Courts have shut down.
So if
what are you asking exactly?
Okay, if you violate,
can they practice?
If you're
law?
arrested, can your
yes,
lawyer
they
come?
can practice the law.
If I violate a curfew, for example, and I need legal services,
Call your lawyer.
But they have a curfew, they cannot move.
But they can talk to you on the phone. The phone isn't under curfew.
This is why they're even telling people to stay at home, because in that sense, you can't actually call anybody to come over and, for example, bail you out or do anything for you. They can't. That's why they're saying we would be detained until the next day. But then now they're saying charged in court. But the court processes are not working right now either.
And even if you are detained, we don't want to congest prisons because that becomes another whole big problem.
Just stay at home.
Just stay at home.
Okay.
For avoidance of
doubt.
Yeah. This
Or
is the
just tell
thing.
police officers, chapa you slaps, escort you home.
Like what's happening in India.
Yeah, unaishi wapi? Unaishi wapi? Unaishi wapi?
What Eric is demonstrating
Go home.
is something that has been scientifically proven.
To work.
To work.
Yes, there is the enhanced hearing application.
Yeah.
That's what is describing here. And it throws in understanding while at it.
Sound effects work.
Yes.
They always do work. What's happening in India is that, well, they're basically just telling you
It's
to
not
head
just
back
India.
home. Many
Who
other
else
countries.
is clobbering people?
If you look carefully, you will find that the Ugandans were there even before the Indians.
Yep.
Yes.
They're telling people to go home, and that's why we want to talk to somebody
Remember
in
yesterday we
India
were
to hear
talking to
this
our
happen.
friends in the media. They're saying, these people of ours are hard-headed. And hard-headed is not physical, as though their heads are not similar to granite or concrete. It's just that...
Oh, macadamia. So speaking of this, let's go to India and hear the experience. We are joined by Priti. Priti is in Bangalore, India. Good morning, Priti.
A very good morning. Namaste from India. Greetings to you.
Namaste to you too.
Namaste.
That is the socially appropriate way to greet now. No contact.
Yes.
Oh, completely, yes. Indeed. Priti, you're in Bangalore, India. And
Yes, that is right.
India is now, the entire country is on a lockdown.
This is day 3 of our complete national lockdown. However, the state in which I live has been in lockdown for 8 days now, because the very first cases of imported transmission were spotted here in Bangalore. Bangalore is the IT capital of India. Lots of very big IT names and travelers who were coming back from various parts of the world. They had tested positive. And so this state went under lockdown a whole week before the national lockdown.
Right. So how many cases do you have now in your state? And then after you tell us about your state, tell us about the country.
The state has 55 positive cases that have been declared and reported. And we've had 2 deaths. Whereas at the national level, we have almost 700 cases now and 17 officially dead. Those are the figures.
Right. Okay. And the numbers are rising pretty fast.
Are rising. We have seen a spurt over the past couple of days, and I guess that is what prompted the lockdown, because we cannot afford community transmission. It will be catastrophic.
Speaking of not being able to afford, this kind of transmission, we've seen pictures of social distancing in the marketplace, in public spaces. Are you seeing this as, and it seems to be working from our side of things. Are you seeing this as effective?
People are taking it very seriously. To be honest, I think they really understand the gravity of the situation. And I have to give credit to, the government coming in very early with a huge public, service announcement campaign where they were telling people information was available. And, even celebrities, just people endorsing the fact that you have to wash your hands. And so it's been on for a long time, almost a month now. In fact, whenever you call anyone in India, you first have a 30-second message from the Ministry of Health, giving you all the information about coronavirus, helplines, who to contact, and only then you get through. So I think most people in India are aware.
So
the information is out there.
That's quite
And
interesting,
people
especially when you talk about that.
Yes.
Sorry, Priti. I was saying that's pretty interesting to hear that. Mobile phones, when you call somebody, the first message that you hear is this public service announcement, giving you the information of what you need to know. And also saying that the government started this a long time ago, roping in celebrities and using other medium. What other medium do they use apart from the mobile phones?
Media has been very, very active. Every channel, constantly gives you updates on, the current figures, who to go to in case of trouble. They've had panels of doctors coming on, and they've been really very proactive. and in a very sensible way. I mean, our media has often been accused of rabble-rousing and, just kind of whipping up a frenzy, but this time it's been very, very sensible. I have to say, hats off to all the media guys out there. Plus, even, the police have been taking such a proactive role in India, and this is very refreshing and surprising for us. You have cops on patrol who are, use megaphones and are telling people in areas, what to do, who to contact, why you need to maintain social distancing. In fact, at traffic signals, you have groups of traffic policemen who, when the red light is on, they actually demonstrate the correct way of washing hands.
Wow.
So it really has been a huge media blitz, lots of information, and this started very early.
And do you see this as information coming from one source that has been then spread out to different sectors?
That is what has come to now. Initially, there was a lot floating around, and a lot of it unsubstantiated. And, you have all of these ridiculous WhatsApp forwards.
Yes.
The government and a lot of rubbish, absolute nonsense that has been, circulated. The government has actually come down quite heavily on that. People have been warned that if they're spreading rumors or, anything that's unverified, they can actually take you to task.
Okay.
So it's the Ministry of Health Affairs that is really actually now, sending out the daily bulletins. We have a COVID dashboard, which has all of the information on one site. And all of the media channels are again then, kind of leading people to that.
Okay. Pretty. When the WHO Director General was having his one of his daily press briefings, he noted that in India is actually likely to handle this COVID pandemic well because of how the country handled polio. I don't know, what are these lessons that India did or learned from handling polio? What are these things that India did in polio that you think will work with the COVID pandemic and might be borrowed by other countries like Kenya, for example?
Right. So it's really, we are actually not very effective in, all of these small cases, but when there is a big, issue at hand, for some reason this country has been very successful in handling large numbers. Polio, there was a door-to-door campaign. Literally everyone was, vaccinated at home. And similarly for smallpox too, we have eradicated smallpox, which is, still there. And it sounds very, surprising, but we've been able to do it. I also think because people have understood that this is a question of life and death. There's a sense of self-preservation.
Yeah.
We cannot afford to be an ill nation. We cannot. We absolutely cannot. In the sense, and I can say this because we cannot follow the Chinese model. There are deep pockets there. There's political will. I say this because I lived in China for several years. I watched it up close. The effort, and the government can only do that much. People really have to rally around this. And that's the only key.
What has the government done to address social concerns? People have been told to stay at home. There are those who rely on daily wages. There are those that rely on just seeking alms on the streets.
8% consists of daily wage earners, construction workers, the unorganized sector. Very soon after announcing the lockdown, yesterday, the finance minister announced a huge relief package. I think $22 billion. Cash transfers, bank transfers. There are free food banks that have been set up. Health insurance for all health workers up to the tune of something like $60,000. There's interest-free loans, which they have announced. The RBI today, the Reserve Bank of India, this morning announced a moratorium on a lot of the EMI payments and loan payments due. 31st March is traditionally the last day for filing of taxes. That has been pushed back now to the 30th of June.
Right.
And so there is a slew of initiatives. And there's really, I mean, they're trying their best to kind of you make sure that the common man doesn't suffer.
Right. And what is the sentiment, Priti? Priti, what is the sentiment of the common man, as it were, now in terms of what the government is doing? Feeling some kind of reassurance that the government is doing all that it can to help the common man, the citizen, the people through this crisis?
What happened was, I think this was a very sensibly played out, kind of a narrative. It was introduced very gently. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but we had the Prime Minister called for something called a Janata curfew. That was a 1 day.
Yes.
Kind of a curfew, which was not mandatory. It was voluntary. And he, got people to start thinking of it as, some kind of solidarity with health workers, just, kind of expressing, solidarity and being one as a country.
Yeah.
And people responded to it very well. And just 48 hours later, he said, I need more time. We need to extend this.
Yeah.
I think it was introduced very well. People, on the whole, most of them, understand why we need to do this.
Yeah.
Of course, there has been panic, because this is a country which lives on daily wages and, you earn, you spend.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that all of these measures will kick in soon. Hopefully, they will reach the right people at the right time. There's a complete transport ban in the country. No flights, no trains, no buses. A lot of the rural workers come into urban areas to earn their living.
Yeah.
So that's a huge area that needs to be addressed. They would prefer to go back home if there's no work, because at least there they will get 2 meals.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it's a lot like Kenya. Back home, they will at least have a plot of land where they will, be able to grow something. And so stopping that, all of that, borders, states have closed borders. So that is a huge issue, and we're hoping that doesn't cause, any kind of angst.
What's the sentiment of among the people there over that?
Sorry?
What is the people's sentiment about that when they know that they've been locked in and they're not allowed to travel, and especially those ones who are low-income earners?
It has been very hard because, firstly, there's been a loss of income, and I know this because people who work for us, all of a sudden, they just have nothing left.
Yeah.
The district and local administration has been very, very proactive. They've ensured that food supplies, rations reach people. And, there is a reason for them to just, hang in there. And so this is still the 14th of April, this self-imposed lockdown. It could very well be extended. We have actually, one of the reasons this has been done is, and this has been explained to people very well, that we are actually trying to buy time. The term used is to flatten the curve.
Yeah.
We need this time for health services to get their act together, so that it's actually now not a question of if, it's a question of when. And when that happens, we are prepared in the best way we can be.
Thank you very much, Priti, for speaking to us.
You're most welcome. Please stay safe, stay home, and we're all in this together.
Thanks, Priti. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
The government of India has done some things. I was seeing City just nodding his head.
We use Mercy's words. They've performed bigly.
Yes. No, they're not my word. Bigly is not my word. I just borrowed it.
Just borrowed it from DJT.
Yes. Look at even how they began. The Prime Minister asks people and says, folks,
please, I need help.
I need a little time to do this. I need your help.
In solidarity with the workers,
and
let's not go to work
after
tomorrow.
the first day, he came back and said, I thought I would need 1 day.
Let's extend this.
Please, give me some more time. People said,
okay.
Hey.
Is it the same thing happening to us?
Yeah.
He's being honest.
It can happen.
Is it the same? Because
it can happen.
You see, people are learning lessons from different countries.
It can happen.
So maybe we are being introduced.
Maybe the communication. You see, now that's the thing. The communication of it is coming out as these are the measures that we are taking. We are the government. We are the government. These are the
have
measures that we are
decided.
taking. We have decided, right? So that's one way of looking at it. And the other one is saying this is in solidarity. Instead of just saying, oh, support our workers, in solidarity with our health workers, what can we do? Rallying the country together so everybody is on board.
And it's literally everybody
look
on
at the
board.
thought
You
that
pick
went
up your
into this.
phone,
Look at the thought
you
that-
call somebody, and 30 seconds the government is speaking to you
Yep.
Yes.
about what needs
The
to happen
skizzer tune,
before
the
you
callback,
continue.
the
And this
ringback
is
tone.
everybody. Messages. And that's why I asked the question, is this message one message going to all sectors?
Whether it's SMS, whether when you make a call, that's what you hear
Yeah.
first.
For everyone.
You know,
And you can't talk about time. Didn't this thing hit when it hit everybody else? How long have they had to get all this in place
Yeah.
and be able to run with it?
All
Not
of us
just talk about
have
it.
had the same time.
we've had
Not
the same
just
time.
exactly,
At the same
not just
time.
talk about it, form a committee, write a report, but actually do it, roll it out, and it's happening. People can see that it's going on as we speak.
The measures on mobile phones started as in the beginning of February. China had locked down about 10 days earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, they took it seriously. They listened
Immediately.
They said, oh, it's
This is what
happening.
we need to do.
We have this population.
Go.
Pop.
Roll out measures.
Now, we have a similar situation because 75% of our people are in informal employment.
Yep.
So, this is a population that is in dire need of such assistance. You know, I was listening, while I was nodding, I was thinking, man, simple solutions,
Food
clearly
banks.
thought out.
Food
Yeah,
banks
food banks.
around the
Do you remember there was this time when we had more milk than you knew what to do with?
Yeah.
Then we had more maize than what we knew what to do with.
Yeah.
Now, surely,
Now, it
Imagine
should
if
come
we
in
had
handy.
powdered, imagine we had dehydrated that milk.
you've got
As an
the
example.
drift. You've got the drift clearly. We would have had food reserves.
Would not be worried about some of
No,
these things.
no,
we just
no,
mobilize,
no.
distribute.
Our SFR is dry. There was the chairman of the SFR, the former MP, Noah Wekesa, has said our strategic food reserve is almost empty.
Which means it is empty.
It is empty.
Nothing, nothing. They look. If you look at now, when we're talking at that time, you said you would have desiccated the maize, you would have dehydrated the milk, you would have dried your fish.
Even
were
in terms
plump
of the
and-
glut, we said the same thing.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Guys, let this thing not
This
go
is
straight.
now
Why
a
are we
re-
pouring
this
it
is
out?
how.
There's something you can do with it.
And this is one of those things that you would have been able to do with it. Where do you think India is getting the food for the food banks that they have in different
They have
states?
food.
And
They
remember,
have the food
in
reserves.
India is 1.2
1.2
billion.
billion
Billion
people, subcontinent. Yeah.
The Kenyan population alone is just one city in India. But they've been able
And not
to
a very big one either.
Yeah, and they've been able to manage 1.2 billion people, put them on lockdown, give them money, food reserves. Like, what are we doing?
As Pretty said, though, that she is hoping that it reaches the people who deserve to be reached, because we've also had very many cases of state governments and the national government and corruption in between. But in this particular case, at least the government is saying this is the plan.
This is the plan.
And we roll out the plan. Everybody's getting things
Moratoriums have been put in place.
the bank saying, okay, so we're going to have a moratorium. The revenue authority saying you're supposed to file your returns. Let's push
We
that.
give you a month.
3.
Yeah, 3 months.
3 more months. We have been told go talk to your bank.
And it's everybody working together. It's not us to you. It is all of us together. Concerted effort. And really, once you want to help people, that's the way to
Remember
go
what
about
we've been
it.
saying about how this thing exposes our underbelly. Look at our communication. It tells you what the leadership thinks of the citizenry, who pay their salaries and who are actually their bosses and employers. It's a top down. You know, we are constantly being instructed and talked to.
Talk down.
You're never called for a conversation, you're talked to. And yet, in our constitution requires you to have. Now, is this not
Public
the time for that so-called
participation.
public participation?
Yeah.
Formulate it so that people feel actually. You know, when you're given instructions, why do you think people are reacting this way? It's alongside many other edicts that have been issued, and people are saying, at this time, there's no plan for this, and you're still giving us instructions. No. Instruct yourself, please.
Come on, go and sit down.
Yes, exactly. You know, because our leaders are Kenyans and they live here, the example that gives me hope is this example, paltry as it sounds, of the salary cuts. The fact that they can think along that direction means they can do more.
Yes.
It may not add up to some huge amount. It may not also add up to the amounts that have been lost under their watch. But it is a step in the right direction in that they're thinking there's something we can do for those who are less fortunate. But that is actually not just a tip of the iceberg, a speck. What needs to be done is for serious government intervention that guarantees there's money to do these things. ISPAC advised them and told them categorically, start discussing moratoriums with people we owe money. It frees up that money.
Yeah.
Talk about it for 6 months. It can be done. Talk about other measures and tools that are available to you. Make sure it is done. This money that India has, they're not telling us how they arrived at it.
All of it is doable.
It's doable.
Yep.
It's doable.
Coming to the end of the week. Is today Friday?
The end of the
It
week.
is.
It is.
Oh, yeah, it
Oh,
is.
yeah,
Coming
me, I was
to
thinking-
the
me, I was thinking
end
today's
of-
Thursday, man.
Imagine.
Yes.
It's
Can come
Friday,
tomorrow, no problem.
right? So
You
as
can
we
come back
conclude,
tomorrow.
tell us about today's proverb.
The proverb was when two elephants fight, it's the grass that gets trampled on. Now, somebody sent me a message on WhatsApp, a friend of mine, and he says, you need to bear in mind that grass also serves another purpose. It is where elephants patch up when they disagreed and they even make love. And he says the grass still suffers.
Throughout, it's also the food.
It's also the food.
The grass is so unfortunate
The grass
in
is
this
very
case.
unfortunate.
Poor grass.
Poor grass. Then we should just grow it on roofs.
The grass should come up with ways to ensure that elephants don't fight.
Grass should intermingle with thorns so that you're very careful about what you
Yes,
do
around
when-
it.
Yes.
Actually, yes.
And we're talking about the
Self-preservation.
Grass
sharp
should
variety.
adopt survival tactics.
Yes.
Self-preservation.
Intermingle because thorns even look green until you sit on it.
Ha.
There is
Then
a
it looks
reason why
plain.
roses have thorns after all.
Dr. Ari, thank you very much for joining us this week. We'll see you again next week from Monday
Thank you very
to
much.
Friday, right?
As you say, this season.
This season, this is the season.
This is the season.
This is a season for Dr. Mercy Korir to be here with us. Asante sana for tuning into the Situation Room this week. We are urging you, please, the curfew starts tonight. It doesn't mean that by 7 o'clock you should be out of the city to your rural home. Stay here. Like George Natembea, the Rift Valley Regional Coordinator, has asked, unapeleka hii kitu Kiplombe? Unaenda kufanya nini Kiplombe? Unapelekea mzee Kiplombe? Is it Kiplombe?
Kiplombe.
That man is a good communicator.
Very.
Fantastic.
Very
I think
effective.
it's one of the best we've heard.
Stay here, stay home, stay safe. Everybody observe all the measures that have been given to us by the government, the World Health Organization, social distancing, wash your hands, do everything you can. Let's fight COVID-19 together. Together we can. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock. Have a great weekend.